The girl always walks with her head down, playing on her phone. The next second, she's hit by a reincarnation truck and sent flying hundreds of meters. At this moment, a mysterious winged boy appears out of thin air. He congratulates her on getting a chance to be reborn. The girl is completely dumbfounded on the spot. She never thought such an absurd thing would happen to her. As for why she was chosen, it's even more outrageous. It turns out the deity is a hardcore novel fan. The girl had left brilliant comments on every novel they read. So when the deity created a fantasy world, they immediately thought of her. The girl doesn't feel fortunate about this. After all, many novel characters lead miserable lives. If she refuses, she'll be erased from existence. So she proposes a few conditions. Not only must she have a prestigious background, but also a handsome father and brother and unimaginable special abilities. The angel doesn't refuse. Instead, he smiles like a villain. The girl tries to back out urgently, but it's too late. Before being swallowed, she shouts, demanding to know what the special ability is. "You're dead if you dare to trick me." And the angel says one last incomprehensible thing. "Don't worry, because you are mine." However, the life the girl wanted doesn't materialize. Despite being the daughter of a prestigious duke, she becomes a lowly servant who can't eat or dress well. She's even scolded and bullied by her uncle every day. "You should know your place. This is why your father abandoned you." Oh, by the way, it's not even certain if you're the Duke's real daughter. Just then, Cousin Clara suddenly appears, seemingly kind-hearted, pleading for Lulu. But in reality, she constantly humiliates her behind her back. That night, her legs are beaten bloody. She's even punished by not being allowed dinner for a whole week. Later, the wicked Cousin Clara adds insult to injury. People who don't work hard don't deserve to eat. You'd better be more diligent in the future. In her heart, Lulu curses that demon. She sheds tears of sadness. She even considers ending it all, but immediately tells herself not to be so fragile. She must survive in this world that she rates 0 out of 10. Soon, it's Cousin Clara's birthday party. This year, she's wearing another custom-made luxury dress. It's said that one dress alone could buy a mansion. Lulu hides in the darkness, feeling miserable, but Clara deliberately dirties her own shoes. As a result, Lulu once again becomes the humiliated servant. "What are you doing? Isn't a week of hunger enough? Do you want another beating?" The girl is utterly humiliated. Large tears fall uncontrollably from her eyes. At this moment, her long-absent Duke father suddenly appears. He sternly questions, "My daughter's hair doesn't seem to be blonde." The poor girl, chosen by the deity to enter the fantasy world, was born with beauty rivaling Mabel's. Yet her own uncle treated her as a servant and abused her in countless ways. Today, her Duke father, unseen for years, finally returns from the battlefield. He comes to the Marquis's mansion immediately. The uncle frantically tries to cover up his actions. He claims Lulu is just a servant working in the house. But how could the Duke not recognize his own child? He deliberately asks, "This shabby girl, she couldn't be the daughter of House Peyrade, could she?" Lulu's heart skips a beat. Her words are almost pleading. "Even so, could you take me with you? I just couldn't clean myself properly. That's why I look like this. I'm good at washing clothes and cooking. I can work to pay for my meals. I can even polish your shoes every day. I can make them very, very shiny." As she speaks, her tears fall uncontrollably. She hurriedly grabs the Duke's trouser leg. "I want to go home. Father, please take me with you." Lulu is determined not to let go. Unexpectedly, the Duke lifts her up with one hand. He starts walking out like this. Just as they're about to leave, the Duke suddenly stops. He uses magic to tear Clara's dress apart on the spot. "How dare you covet things that aren't yours? You're asking for death." In fact, Clara's annual dresses were all bought by the Duke for his daughter, but the Marquis had claimed them as his own. After returning, Lulu experiences a happiness she's never known before. In just 10 days, she regains her health. However, the Duke never comes to see her once. Based on her years of novel-reading experience, the Duke should be a good person who appears villainous. She bet on the right horse. To continue living here, she decides to work to pay for her meals first, because that's what she promised before coming. The maids watch their young mistress in bewilderment. How could the Duke's daughter be here to work? However, Lulu believes she's been abandoned. She can't possibly become a true child of the family. "What are you doing here?" Suddenly, the Duke appears. His aura sends chills down everyone's spine. Lulu hurriedly explains that she's good at cleaning, so she's working to pay for her meals. But but the Duke simply lifts her up with one hand. His posture looks as if he's about to throw her out. But unexpectedly, he brings Lulu to the dining table. Then he sternly orders, "Eat quickly." The girl desperately stuffs food into her mouth. Even though her stomach is about to burst, she still doesn't dare to say a single word of refusal. After all, her Duke father's gaze could kill an elephant. Fortunately, a maid steps forward to remind him. Young Miss is different from the other young masters. Eating more will cause stomach pain. The Duke looks very serious, but he assigns the maid Anna as his daughter's personal attendant. Lulu is overjoyed to hear this. It means she can stay here indefinitely. But on second thought, she believes the Duke is concerned about his reputation. If he were to drive his daughter out so quickly, people would criticize him. The Duke just stares at Lulu without saying a word. This makes him very uncomfortable. Luckily, his aide comes to report. The royal family has urgent matters that need attention. This resolves the current awkward situation. After returning, Anna approaches Lulu. As you can see, His Grace has no intention of driving you away. So as the Duke's youngest daughter, you can relax and enjoy yourself. The other maids chime in agreement when they hear this. This confuses Lulu. Are you all worried about me? Of course we are. Then why wouldn't any of you talk to me? I thought you all disliked me. The maids are surprised that their young mistress thought this way. You're different from the others in the Duke's family. You have no airs about you and are so kind. From then on, Lulu's misunderstanding is cleared up. For the first time, she feels kindness from others. However, that night, Lulu becomes worried again because her uncle had said she was a child her mother had with someone else. Moreover, she doesn't look anything like the Duke and hasn't inherited any magical power. If it's discovered she's an illegitimate child, being driven out would be the least of her worries. To survive, she must act like a true daughter, make him unable to bear sending her away due to paternal affection. She knows exactly what to do. The next day, she musters up courage to stand at the office door. She originally planned to count to 10 before entering. Unexpectedly, the aide opens the door first. His Grace asks you to come in. Lulu is extremely nervous, but she quickly adjusts and rushes in. Dad, I've missed you so much. Everyone present is stunned. You miss me? But weren't you very uncomfortable in my presence? Lulu feels guilty being called out. She still pushes through, saying she's just unfamiliar and needs to stick together to become closer. The next second, she's lifted onto his lap. To gain favor, she puts her hands on the Duke's face. Suddenly, a text box pops up. Conditions met to confirm contractor's identity. Trait, rush and cash. Awaken girl. To gain favor with the father she hasn't seen in years, she deliberately creates physical contact. Unexpectedly, a text box pops up, so this is the special ability given by the angel. The Duke shows no expression. He places his daughter on his lap and keeps poking her cheeks with his finger. Lulu realizes, could this be the novel's plot where the tyrant becomes a doting father? However, the Duke says she looks like an angry pufferfish. After the meeting ends, the Duke holds her from day to night. They spend a whole day together, only letting her go to bathe when it gets dark. Lulu is a bit confused. Could it be because she said they should always stick together this morning? Is that why he's doing this? But in just a second, she dismisses the thought. There are more important matters at hand. That is, the prompt that appeared during the day. She regrets not being able to read it all. The prompt appears again. Trait, rush, and cash. Unable to use. I can't believe such simple awakening conditions took you so long to get here. You didn't think it was a fraudulent contract and curse internally, did you? Lulu feels guilty being called out. Could acting cute towards the Duke's face be the awakening condition? Then the text box updates again. Use gold coins to summon novels you've read. Randomly extract the heroine's abilities. For Lulu, who has read countless novels, this is absolutely incredible. Survival definitely won't be a problem. Even conquering the world wouldn't be out of reach. Suddenly, another message pops up. Ability is incomplete. Please complete the conditions on your own. Obtain summoning medium. Reward, 500 gold coins. Lulu accepts the task without hesitation. She starts thinking about what the summoning medium could be. Normally, it would be a sacred object from a temple or a treasure from a magic tower. Otherwise, it could be a family heirloom passed down through generations of noble families. Currently, she can only access family heirlooms, but the intimidating Duke father is a big challenge. As she thinks about it, she drifts off to sleep. The next day, Anna wakes her from her dream. She smiles and greets the maid sisters. Seeing the jewelry on the table, she can't help but exclaim, "It's really beautiful." Then her expression suddenly becomes downcast. These look so expensive. The maids all say she can wear these freely. She seizes the opportunity to ask, "Does the Duke's mansion have a place to store these?" The domain's Duke's mansion has many such rooms. Would you like to see them? Is that okay? When I was at Sister AI's house, I get scolded just for going near those rooms. The maids feel sorry for their young lady. They immediately embrace her. The kind-hearted Lulu comforts them instead. "It's okay, because now I have you sisters who worry about me." In an instant, everyone rushes to surround her. This makes her feel warm inside. Anna says since it's her first visit, they should see the best room in the Duke's mansion, the Holy War Room. The treasury of Marquis Talinka's mansion is nothing compared to that place. However, at this moment, the deputy suddenly appears. The Duke invites you to breakfast. After being a miserable maid for years, the girl is brought back to the mansion by the Duke. It's her first time eating with her Duke father. She's so awkward she could dig out a 3-bedroom apartment. On second thought, she feels this isn't right, so she smiles and greets him. As expected, she receives no response. Thus, she decides to focus on eating. The delicious pudding makes her eyes sparkle. In no time, she eats it all up. Looking at the empty plate, she feels very disappointed. The next second, the Duke pushes his pudding to her. Then he immediately pretends to be indifferent. Lulu wants to let the Duke taste some, but she still backs out. After all, in her previous life, she never had a father. She doesn't know how to interact. After finishing the meal, the Duke stares at Lulu and says, "Why aren't you clinging to me?" Then he picks her up. Usually by the time Lulu wakes up, the Duke is already gone from the mansion. But today he specifically waited here. The Duke silently takes Lulu to his office. He just quietly reviews documents. This makes Lulu very suspicious. Could the Duke really be doing this because of what she said? Through these days of interaction, Lulu increasingly feels that the Duke is a good person, but she quickly stops her wild imagination. After all, the most important thing now is to find a medium. What's wrong? I want to see beautiful things. Lucy adds from the side. The young lady plans to visit the Holy War Room today. Lulu fears the Duke will question her. Unexpectedly, the Duke immediately puts down the mountain of documents and personally leads Lulu there. The luxury of the Holy War Room is astonishing. These are clearly not ordinary treasures. Just then, an ancient book nearby emits a dazzling light. Lulu immediately realizes this is probably the medium mentioned in the mission. "Dad, what's this?" "This is a sealed book. It's a treasure inherited from the first Duke." The girl's eyes light up as she coos. "How amazing! Can I touch it?" Her adorable appearance seems to cause no ripples. She was about to make a tactical retreat when a sudden mission pops up. Persuade the Duke to obtain the summoning medium. Reward: 5,000 gold coin lottery tickets. To be safe, Lulu doesn't want to accept it all. But refusing the mission or failing, it would lead to exiting this life. And accepting the mission provides a hint. There's clearly no choice. So she reluctantly accepts the mission. With a resigned look, she stares at the Duke, ready to receive the so-called hint. However, the next second, a heart appears on the Duke's face. What does this mean? The cold Duke becomes a daughter-con, just needing a kiss. Lulu is forced to accept the system's mission. The next second, a heart appears on the Duke's face. With her super sensitivity, she immediately understands what it means. But this is really too embarrassing. Your expression is so strange, like a frog being strangled. The Duke observes her constantly changing expression and makes a blunt comment. Lulu hurriedly tries to calm herself down. Now she just needs to persuade the Duke. "Dad, I'll be very careful. Can't you really take it out and let me look? Please, please." The Duke's expression becomes even more solemn after hearing this. He also loosens his grip a bit. Lulu looks confused. The next second, more hearts pop up, repeatedly saying, "Kiss him, kiss him." At this point, Lulu gives up on persuasion. She directly hugs the Duke's neck and kisses him. Not just the Duke, everyone present is stunned. Lulu doesn't know what will happen next. The next second, all the glass cabinets behind her shatter. When she comes to her senses, the ancient book is already in the Duke's hand. Lulu hurriedly reaches out to take it, but the Duke waves the book back and forth, as if teasing her, driving the girl crazy. In fact, the Duke is probably just checking if the book is dangerous. The assistant nearby is very excited. After all, this is a family heirloom. It would be bad if the young lady damaged it. Unexpectedly, the Duke turns his head coldly and asks, "Is this your property?" The assistant immediately shuts up. Lulu happily extends her hand, praising that Dad is the best. This makes the Duke secretly pleased. The surrounding hearts become even more numerous. Lulu immediately gives another kiss. This makes the daughter-loving Duke almost grind his back teeth to pieces, causing his expression to become even more solemn. The moment she touches the book, countless text boxes pop up. Successfully obtained summoning medium. 500 gold coins awarded. 5,000 gold coin lottery tickets awarded. Gain the assistant's admiration. Gain the butler's admiration. Family influence slightly increased. 500 gold coins awarded. Clearly, rewards can be obtained based on people's reactions. The persuaded target satisfaction has reached the highest level. Reward about to be issued. The man's expression is very calm, showing no emotion at all. Lulu wanted to return to her room to check the rewards she just received, but she was naturally led to the conference room by the Duke. According to these days of secret surveillance on Duke Corinta, it was discovered that his Mana Stone mining business has attracted many investors, all from big families. Originally, this kind of thing had many variables. They didn't dare to act rashly before confirming the quality of the Mana Stones. But because of a rumor saying that the Elliton family might also be investing, everyone rushed to join in. The Duke analyzes the possibility of the rumor spreading. Either these people will invest, unrelated to the Duke's mansion, or Marquis Talenka leaked the information to those. Lulu accidentally blurts out her inner thoughts. Instantly, the scene becomes as quiet as a mouse. Obviously, something's very wrong. The Duke angrily explodes on the spot. A gesture from the girl unexpectedly calms down the Duke, whose magical energy was raging. Just now, Lulu accidentally blurted out her inner thoughts during the meeting. Instantly, everyone's eyes are focused on her. With no choice, she can only explain what happened. Uncle told a well-dressed man, "Father has invested." He even showed that man evidence. It was a very beautiful card. Although it was black, it was shimmering. It's a card that looks like this. The issuer of this card is the Paradon Duke's family. Everyone is shocked instantly. Some condemn the Marquis's crime. Some question the authenticity of this matter. Some even doubt whether the Duke really gave money. If no Mana Stones are mined later, the Duke's family would be charged with fraud. The Duke behind remains silent. Lulu turns her head and finds the Duke staring at her intently. "How did you hear those words?" Lulu thinks she's being suspected. One wrong move could be fatal. Trembling, she explains, "When Uncle met that man, I was polishing Uncle's shoes." The assistant is puzzled. For years, the Duke's mansion has been giving the Marquis an astronomical sum for living expenses every month. Why would the young lady need to do such servant work? Lulu frantically explains it's not like that. "Uncle said Father didn't give money and abandon me, so I needed to wash dishes, mop floors, and clean. Only then would he take me in and give me food." No one present believes it. The Marquis is known to dote on his daughter. How could he do such a thing to a child? Lulu tries her best to make her tone more fitting for her age, but she still fails to gain the trust of those present, fearing for her life over one sentence. She immediately kneels down and starts polishing shoes. Tears of grievance keep falling as she tries hard to mimic that scene, just hoping to be believed. "Enough! Who are you questioning?" Instantly, the Duke's angry magical energy passes through Lulu, choking everyone present. Made you recall meaningless memories. The Duke, feeling heartache, wants to pat his daughter, but still withdraws his hand. Understanding his intention, Lulu quickly grabs the magical energy. The raging Duke is instantly pacified. He hugs his daughter tightly in his arms. Not knowing how much time has passed, Lulu slowly wakes up in the bedroom. She thought it was the maid Anna who brought her back. Seeing no one around, she quickly took out the old family heirloom to study it. The moment she opened the book, a dazzling light burst forth. The originally tattered book became brand new. What forbidden magic could be inside this new book? When she opened it with excitement, she was instantly dumbfounded. The book was blank. The next second, a pop-up appeared. Summoning medium seal removed. Charactéristique usage restriction lifted. The girl had used all her strength to appease her Duke father, gaining the unsealed skill of the family heirloom. Suddenly, a system sound rang out. Please use gold coins to summon novel extraction ability. Reward, 1,000 gold coins. Unexpectedly, it gave the desired task right from the start. Lulu waved her arm casually, but there was no response. Based on countless reading experiences, it must be that. After confirming no one was around, she recited that Shinibia-like incantation. O being with ice-cold blood like soda, I hope you appear before me immediately. Show the power to shatter frustrating plots. This was really embarrassing. Fortunately, it did trigger the plot. Please state the name of the novel you want to summon. My choice is, although it's a rich family, I want to escape. As long as there's money, I won't have to worry about being kicked out anytime. However, the words insufficient gold coins appeared. As always, still poor and destitute. Suddenly, the system prompted again. Do you want to use the 5,000 gold coin lottery ticket? Lulu happily responded loudly, praying to get 5,000 gold coins. But after the congratulations, she only got 100 gold coins. Now, she has a total of 1,100 gold coins. Her luck was as bad as ever. Suddenly, she remembered there was another unconfirmed message earlier. Lulu didn't have high hopes. Unexpectedly, the reward was a novel rental ticket for a full 3 days. This was even better than 5,000 gold coins. Lulu happily knelt and bowed towards the direction of the Duke's office. It seems the most important thing now is to collect gold coins. Suddenly, the maid's voice came from outside the door. Lulu quickly hid the book. You must be hungry. Seeing you sleeping so soundly, I didn't wake you up. I didn't expect you to sleep so deeply on His Grace's lap. Lulu could hardly believe what she heard. At first, you were just nodding off. Later, you simply sprawled out and fell into a deep sleep. Everyone couldn't help but laugh. It was His Grace himself who carried you back. Lulu now really felt like dying. Dad must think I'm very troublesome. Lucy hurriedly explained, His Grace really loves you very much. Usually, he finds even taking measurements troublesome. But today, he ordered the tailor to come and make custom clothes for you. So he's just a bit unfamiliar with these things. Other maids also agreed. Since you came, we often see His Grace showing a different side than before. After all, the people of the Duke's family are different from ordinary people. Lulu was very confused about what this meant. Lucy quickly signaled to avoid this topic. Therefore, Lulu believed that the Peradon family must be hiding some secret. She needs to find a way to inquire about it. Meanwhile, Lulu's Marquis uncle was furious. Because of the Duke's intervention, he lost all his investments. Even the bank refused to extend the loan repayment. Could it be that the Duke knew about his rumors? The vicious man came up with a plan. He called his daughter Clara, wanting her to go to the Duke's mansion to investigate. Don't you miss your cousin? Go to the Duke's mansion and see how she's doing. The Tsundere Clara didn't see Lulu as a sister at all. She thought that even if they were to meet, Lulu should come see her. After the Marquis's disdain and flattery, she reluctantly agreed. With a condescending attitude, this young lady will personally visit. He must be extremely grateful. At this moment, Lulu, who was dining, couldn't help but sneeze. The girl wanted to bribe the maid, so she carefully drew a picture. Maid Anna praised her after seeing it, saying the glass she drew was very good. But Lulu pouted and said she guessed wrong. This is a picture of me holding hands with Sister Anna. Anna was moved to tears after hearing this. I will treat it as a family heirloom, enshrined for generations to come. Although Lulu didn't understand, she was greatly shocked. She drew one for each of the other sisters too. Some said they would take the drawing to their graves. Some said they would cover their rooms with it and look at it every night before sleep. Some saw the heart on it and immediately took out a knife, wanting to dig out their hearts to offer to Lulu. The originally very rational adults had become so crazy. Just then, Anna said it was time for a walk. Today, they were going to the glass greenhouse. Lulu was eager to go see it, but because she ran too fast, she fell on her bottom. Suddenly, the Duke appeared in front of her. He asked what she was doing. I fell down. The Duke was very confused as to why. Anna explained that children often fall down. The Duke put his hands in his pockets and scoffed disdainfully. How weak. The hurting Lulu reached out her hand and whined. Dad, will you help me up? The old father sighed and silently picked her up. After seeing his daughter's injured knee, his face instantly darkened. He strode towards the bedroom with her. Looking at the wound that was getting darker, he decided to personally apply medicine to his daughter. The maids nearby whispered, Can His Grace apply it properly? Won't he make the young lady's injury worse? But to everyone's surprise, although the Duke's movements were stiff, they were very gentle. He was extremely careful afraid of hurting his daughter. This made Lulu feel touched and warm inside. Your Grace, the clothing store has sent someone, and the meeting is about to start. You should put the young lady down. The Duke's expression turned gloomy. He walked out with Lulu without saying a word. The vassals who were originally waiting for the meeting could only follow behind. At this moment, in the third reception room, the clothing store staff were discussing heatedly. For many consecutive years, they had been making dresses for this legendary little princess. Each piece was priceless. They didn't know what she looked like. The tailor Yutra was even more nervous. The characteristics of the Duke's family's direct bloodline were black hair, blood-red eyes, and a powerful aura fiercer than wild beasts. So he kept brainwashing himself. Even if she looked like a miniature version of the Duke, he shouldn't look too disappointed. However, when he turned his head, he was instantly stunned. He even had a nosebleed. What was the deal with this petite and adorable little girl? It wasn't until the Duke coldly told her to take measurements that he came to his senses. However, the Duke was reluctant to put his daughter down. He directly measured her while holding her. Seeing this, Yutra began to use his designer's way of handling things. The young lady is so obediently lying in your arms. She must really like you. The Duke was overjoyed inside, but outwardly, he was Tsundere. She insists on clinging to me. It's really troublesome. The vassals also seemed to receive the signal and began to flatter him. Our young lady indeed likes your Grace very much. Last time she sat on your Grace's lap and slept so comfortably. Look, the young lady is hugging the Duke tightly. Doesn't your Grace look cute? My son doesn't even recognize me as his father. I'm really envious of you, your Grace. The Duke's smile was harder to suppress than an AK-47. He quickly tried to regain his serious demeanor. A vassal nearby attacked again. Young lady, how much do you like his Grace? Everyone had "Dad is the best" written all over their faces. However, the next second, Lulu raised her hand. She made a gesture with her fist. Saying this much, she just made a small gesture with her hand. Everyone present instantly broke into a cold sweat. They even thought about where they would be buried. But unexpectedly, Lulu changed her tone. Minus this tiny bit, I like all of it. My love for Dad is like the entire universe. Minus just this tiny bit. The vassals were all touched by her cuteness, exclaiming that an angel had descended. However, the Duke stared at her and said, I didn't hear clearly just now. Lulu knew what this meant, so she embarrassedly repeated it once more. Did you all hear what my daughter said? We heard it. The young lady really loves your Grace. You're so deeply loved by your daughter. I really want to know what your secret is. The Duke was already secretly delighted. The next second, he actually asked, why minus that tiny bit? Lulu hadn't thought about this question before. She instinctively answered, because I want to stay with you forever and ever. So I'm sure I'll like you even more. The Duke hadn't expected that he was so important in his daughter's heart. He shyly turned his head away, not daring to make eye contact. But this made Lulu misunderstand. Yutra, who was nearby, started comparing the clothes he brought. He found that the size was much smaller than before. He didn't know that the previous clothes had been falsely claimed by the Marquis and given to his daughter Clara. However, trying on the styles was still not a problem. But the Duke refused again to put his daughter down to try them on. He directly bought all the clothes, saying, I'll take them all. Just modify them according to her size. The designer exclaimed that he had struck it rich. You should know that each piece was priceless. But I have one condition. The sleeve should either fit perfectly or be made shorter. Lulu instantly remembered what happened a few days ago. She understood that the Duke didn't want to remind her of that past. Sad memory of polishing shoes for others. She was so touched that she buried her face in her father's chest. Clara, the daughter of Marquis Etienne, came uninvited. The moment she saw the Duke's mansion, her eyes lit up. The level of luxury was simply breathtaking. However, this was only the Duke's guest house. When the carriage stopped at the main house, Clara was questioned by the butler. I haven't received any news that Miss Clara of the Talenka Marquis was coming. Clara disdainfully stated that she didn't need permission to visit her cousin. Then she strode in boldly. The moment the door opened, the luxury of this place left her in awe. Then suddenly, the Duke's portrait appeared. His handsome appearance already made Clara switch sides. She even started fantasizing about being doted on by the Duke as his daughter. It is said that Duke Peritone cannot feel sadness. Such people are often lonely. Uncle must also hope that I can get close to him to ease his loneliness. This is something that dirty, illegitimate daughter can't do. Clara thought excitedly, as if she would possess everything the next second. But when she pushed open the door and saw Lulu, she was stunned. Was her hair color always like this? She's like a completely different person. How did she manage that? The White Lotus came to the Duke's mansion intending to embarrass her cousin. Unexpectedly, her formerly dirty cousin was now unrecognizable. Seeing that she was being ignored, Clara gritted her teeth and called Lulu thick-skinned. Lulu wasn't going to indulge her. Coming over without even a greeting, "Aren't you the one with thicker skin?" Clara's face turned red from embarrassment, but in just a second she regained that annoying face. "I came here only because you said you missed me so much, but you treat me like this. Isn't that too shameless? After all, you're not the Duke's daughter." Those few words made Lulu collapse. Clara smiled triumphantly. "I heard from my father. Your mother had an affair and gave birth to you, a dirty, illegitimate child. How can someone like you be so shameless, staying at the Duke's mansion under the Paratone name?" While Lulu was immersed in sadness, a sudden task popped up. "Quick, completely change this choking plot like a sweet potato. Success reward. 2,000 gold coin lottery tickets. Failure punishment. The reincarnator's special abilities will temporarily disappear." Although it was an unfamiliar task window, there was a familiar feeling. Her fighting spirit was instantly ignited. "Are you talking to me? Who else is here besides you?" Clara was very angry. "How dare someone like you ignore me?" Lulu didn't care at all. She calmly stated that this was just the beginning. This angered Clara greatly. "Wearing pretty clothes and not knowing your place. My uncle only took you in out of pity. If you're so arrogant, you'll be kicked out. It seems my father's education hasn't had much effect on you." Lulu fought back, bringing out the attitude befitting her status. "Miss Talenka, how dare you address me, a Paratone palace maid, so rudely? You should call me Lady Maid. Haven't you learned even this basic etiquette?" Lulu was impressed by her own demeanor, while Clara angrily emphasized, "She's an illegitimate child born from her mother's affair. Can you take responsibility for what you just said?" "Of course. Then let's go ask about it." After saying that, Lulu rang the bell. She was about to verify with the butler, who came. Unexpectedly, Clara suddenly shouted and sat down, and started playing the victim to the maid Rain, who rushed over. "Why did you say such bad things? I came here for you." Rain clearly still treated Lulu as the former lowly maid. She started scolding Lulu. Lulu was instantly trapped by memories of being beaten before. Fortunately, the Duke's maid sisters had her back. Rain still stubbornly said that Lulu was wrong first. Then she took out a tattered piece of clothing, saying it was a gift Clara prepared for Lulu. "Didn't you really want this clothes? I'll overlook those excessive things you said to me. Let's make up. After all, I'm the older sister." Lulu didn't know how to counter for a moment. Suddenly, the Duke's cold voice came from behind. "The girl who stole my daughter's clothes has so much to say." He was just dazed by his daughter, but thought his symptoms were due to a curse. It turns out an hour ago, the Duke was still attending a meeting at the palace. His powerful aura made everyone sweat profusely. Because opinions couldn't reach a consensus, someone suggested taking a break before deciding, as they had been meeting for hours. Suddenly, one of the ministers said it was too late, probably no time to buy lightning cream puffs for his daughter. When asked why not let servants buy them, the Count said it's not the same as when Dad buys them personally. Others also agreed and chimed in. The Duke listened silently. He had already started imagining his daughter happily welcoming him and giving him a kiss. But lightning cream puffs are very popular, probably sold out by now. The Duke seemed to see his daughter's disappointed face. This was something he couldn't tolerate, so his expression became even more frightening. Everyone thought it was because the idle chat had angered the Duke. But unexpectedly, the Duke asked Viscount Hale where that pastry shop was. It was just a simple question, but the Viscount had already thought about how he would die, so no one dared to speak. Only one clueless person responded, but he also shut up under the Duke's imposing manner. The meeting continued. Then the deputy officer came and whispered a few words. Upon hearing it, the Duke immediately wanted to leave in a hurry. Suddenly, there was a commotion. What urgent matter could make the Duke leave in such a hurry? The deputy officer wanted to tell them not to worry. Last time he suddenly left the meeting was because he heard Lulu was cleaning windows at home. He hadn't attended meetings recently because Lulu said she wanted to stick close to him. Today, he just heard Clara came to cause trouble for Lulu. Compared to Marquis Talenka using the Duke's family name, to deceive people. Their mistreatment of Lulu made the Duke even angrier. This was a very strange thing. After all, the Paladon ducal family was different from ordinary people, born without any emotions and not needing any communication. But Lulu was completely different. The way His Grace lovingly cares for the young lady is truly heartwarming, because she is of Paladon blood, so I should protect her until she comes of age. Don't you find the young lady cute and lovable? Clearly, the Duke immediately thought of Lulu's smiling face, yet he stubbornly refused to admit it. Your question is not unreasonable. After all, the old monster has more than one or two strange things about her. She falls too easily, and she even cries. She tells me she misses me, and even kissed my face. She even fell asleep sitting on my lap. What's stranger is, whenever I'm by her side, I always want to feed her. I want to do something for her. I even want to bite her. My heart always feels tingly, as if there are insects crawling inside. Looking at it this way, the symptoms are severe, both mentally and physically. The emotionless Duke even believed this was a curse cast by Marquis Talenka using a serum. The deputy officer already understood. This was clearly a doting father syndrome, but he didn't say it out loud. He just felt that someday the Duke would know what these abnormal symptoms really were. Before leaving, the Duke asked the deputy to inquire about the pastry shop the nobles mentioned, and also collect information on other shops specializing in pudding, as well as toy stores for children. Then the Duke, with a face full of anger, got into the carriage to return home. The White Lotus dared to slander in front of the doting Father Duke. The Duke immediately wanted to teach her a lesson. Just now, the Duke heard that Marquis Talenka's daughter came to find Lulu. He immediately ended the meeting and rushed home, fearing that Lulu might be harmed. The girl who stole my daughter's clothes has so much to say. Clara, lacking situational awareness, smiled and rushed over. The Duke, however, completely ignored her. He walked straight past and picked up his daughter and asked her why she was holding a tattered piece of clothing. This action greatly frustrated the narcissistic Clara. She's just a dirty, illegitimate child. Why does she deserve the Duke's love? She put on a pitiful act. Do you dislike me that much? Even so, I'll forgive you. After all, you were just deceived by lies. I apologize on behalf of my cousin. Uncle Duke repeated the word forgive in confusion. This made Clara happy, thinking she had taken the bait. She lied to you saying I stole her clothes. I understand. She must have told such lies to gain your favor. That must be why you misunderstood me, right? Lulu had grown up surrounded by malice since childhood. Yet she couldn't imagine how heartbreaking it would be to be misunderstood by her father. Unexpectedly, the Duke's expression suddenly became very serious. He sternly questioned, "Then what about the dress I saw before? When I went to Marquis Talenka's mansion to pick up my daughter, why were you wearing the dress I prepared for her?" Lulu finally realized. So when the Duke said she looked shabby that day, he wasn't dissatisfied with her, but with her appearance. At this moment, father and daughter finally cleared up the misunderstanding. Clara, standing nearby, was clearly flustered. She loudly retorted that it was a birthday dress bought by her father, as it was every year. Now the Duke knew. His daughter's clothes had been taken away every year. That was my dress, not this imbecile's. The Duke was furious. How dare she insult his daughter like this? Instantly, a demonic aura spread out. Clara fearfully tried to explain. Everyone called her an imbecile, including her father and the people in the mansion. The Duke now seemed like Yama crawling up from the underworld. His pressure was unbearable even for adults, let alone for children. Haven't you heard the rumors about me? Everyone says Duke Paradon is a ruthless killer. A man who can't feel sadness, whose tears are the blood of others. Clara still dared to speak recklessly, calling Lulu a dirty, illegitimate child who stole her position. The Duke instantly became even more terrifying. His demonic aura went berserk, nearly suffocating Clara. At the last moment, the Duke barely managed to restrain himself. "It's better to let you live. Get out." After things calmed down, Lulu sat on the Duke's lap, drinking milk. She wasn't sure what had just happened. She only felt that it suddenly got dark around her, but it felt very soft and comfortable. When her vision became clear again, everything had already ended. At this moment, the guard suddenly came in and knelt down. The Duke sternly questioned how to punish those who failed to protect the house. Everyone unanimously requested to be put to death. It was my negligence. I failed to look after the young lady. I'm willing to die to atone for my crime. Lulu was completely stunned. Would they really commit suicide over such a small matter? However, the Duke's face remained cold. The attendants also drew their swords and pointed them at their necks. It was clearly for real. At this critical moment, Lulu cried out, "No, don't," just because his daughter suffered a tiny bit of harm. The Duke father wanted all the guards to die to atone for their sins. Lulu hurriedly stopped them loudly, saying that the two only had a small argument. Among children, this is how they grow up, playing and fighting with each other, so they shouldn't be punished. The Duke coldly turned to his deputy for an answer. Only after receiving confirmation did he relax, seeing his daughter's face covered in milk foam. He joked that she had grown a beard, then naturally wiped it off and put it in his mouth. Everyone present was shocked beyond belief. The Duke actually did such an unusual thing. Instantly, their eyes looking at Lulu became sparkling. Countless text boxes popped up. "Extremely grateful for your kindness. The deputy expresses admiration for you. The butler, maids, and servants show respect to you. Reward issued, 5,000 gold coins." Lulu was overjoyed. It wasn't 5,000 lottery tickets, but a real 5,000 gold coins. The deputy nearby smiled and flattered. "The young lady seems to be in a good mood. She must find sitting on your Grace's lap comfortable." The Duke was clearly delighted, but sunder alike, he said he didn't understand why his daughter was like this. Only Lulu knew they were overthinking it, but she didn't want to dampen their spirits. After it was over, she collapsed exhausted on the bed. Suddenly the system showed the mission partially failed. Reincarnate her, but disappeared immediately. Lulu looked at the punishment confused. What exactly did she originally have on her? Just then, the Duke knocked and entered. The punishment flat soda suddenly activated. Lulu didn't feel anything wrong at first, but the next second, she felt terrible, so hungry and sleepy. Wanting to eat, she crawled around on the bed. Then she loudly said, "Food, food." The Duke was still confused. Lulu thought she wasn't pitiful enough, so she loudly said, "Then give me cookies." She even patted the Duke's thigh at the end. After doing all this, she briefly regained her sanity. The punishment was losing the reincarnator's ability to think. Wouldn't that turn her into a child? Lulu tried to remedy by massaging the Duke's leg, fearing for her life. Suddenly, the Duke asked about that family heirloom book. Lulu turned into a child again. She blurted out that the book had become very beautiful and was put away nicely. The next second, the Duke's body started glowing. Lulu reached out to touch the heart above his head. "I praise you like this for being beautiful. I praised you. You should say thank you." "I'll thank you too." Lulu peeked at the Duke beside her, wanted to see if he was happy after being praised. But the Duke smiled and asked about that book. "You said the book became very beautiful. I'm quite curious." At this moment, Lulu regained her sanity. She was already sweating profusely, an adult living in a 3-year-old girl's body. Yet due to punishment, she could switch to a child at any time. Now lucid, she decided to confess honestly, but she stopped urgently before speaking. After all, that book was so precious. If it was known to have changed, the Duke might think she was a troublemaker. Everyone would also look down on her, but she still mustered up the courage to be an honest person. However, when she looked up, the Duke's face was even darker than a pot bottom. So under this strong stimulus, Lulu switched back to a child again. Trembling, she lied that the book wasn't damaged. Then she started crying loudly, "You're not my dad. The scary dad belongs to someone else. I didn't mean to make the book like that. You're scaring me like this. You're glaring at me. And my dad is handsome. He even has diamond mines. My dad loves me very much. He wouldn't be so fierce to me." The air suddenly became quiet. Only Lulu's sobs remained. Normally, the Duke would be disappointed by her irresponsibility and lying behavior. But now he didn't want to blame his daughter. Instead, he wanted to reach out and comfort her. But he was rejected before touching her head. "I hate you. You're not my dad." The Duke didn't know how to react. He silently retreated. "Xiaoyingzi, answer me honestly. Am I very ugly?" The butler looked confused. What nonsense was the Empire's most handsome man talking about? After learning what had just happened, the butler could hardly believe it. Just at this moment, Lulu's personal maids walked out, chatting and laughing. The Duke immediately approached and asked what they were holding. Under the Duke's intimidating pressure, Anna was the first to hand it over. However, the Duke was stunned to see the pineapple on it. Could this be some kind of code? Anna shyly said it was a gift from Lulu. Other maids happily introduced theirs. "This is me holding hands with the young lady. This is me hugging the young lady tightly. I received 3. Of course, these can't compare to yours. After all, you're her father. The young lady must have given you many, right? What did she draw for you? Must be a handsome dad, right?" Everyone looked expectant. However, the Duke's face darkened. He said, "I didn't receive anything." Instantly, Everyone's jaws dropped. Meanwhile, Lulu, who had regained her senses, was regretfully banging on the bedboard. Damn punishment. Now it's all ruined. Sincerity is always the ultimate move. The Duke only said one sentence, and it resolved the misunderstanding between father and daughter. Just now, the Duke wanted to comfort his frightened daughter. Unexpectedly, his daughter cried because of him instead, and all the maids received drawings, but the Duke, as her father, didn't get even a hair. A fearless maid suddenly turned into Detective Conan. There's only one truth. That is, the young lady really dislikes your grace. Others quickly covered her mouth. Anna, trying to salvage the situation, asked if Lulu said anything while crying. She said I'm not her father and that she hates me. You're all overreacting. Perhaps when you comforted her, you didn't hug her. Did you smile gently while comforting her? The Duke was confused. Why should he do such things? Anna was shocked by the Duke's ignorance. Please go see the young lady again. Since you made her cry, you should comfort her personally. The Duke was very conflicted about this, but decided to go once more. But do you know what fan means? And bing bing. These words instantly caused everyone to perk up and volunteer. Meanwhile, Lulu, alone in her room, was feeling very depressed. Not being his biological daughter and saying such things, it was really terrible. Anna asked Lulu if she wanted to eat something, but Lulu had no interest because of what happened. Anna pretended to sigh helplessly. It seems the young lady still likes his grace more. Lulu quickly tried to stop her loudly. The next second, the Duke walked in carrying food. With a tragic expression, he said to his daughter, "Eat fan." Lulu was completely bewildered, but she still ate all the food clean. Does it suit your taste? The Duke's sudden politeness confused Lulu. Unexpectedly, the Duke reminded her again, "Please answer my question." Lulu became even more at a loss. The Duke mumbled while looking at a cheat sheet. They said I should respect the child. What's the problem? The Duke sighed and crumpled up the paper. For the first time, he decided to have a heart-to-heart with the child. Were you scared today? No one here can hurt you, neither Marquis Talenka nor his daughter. Lulu then realized that when the Duke came to her room earlier, he thought she was frightened by Clara. That's why he came to comfort her. Because she didn't know when she might turn into a child, Lulu decided to behave well. I lied when I said I hated you earlier. Really? Do you have anything you want to tell me? Actually, Lulu wanted to ask why the Duke left her in such a place. Why he never appeared before. But to please him, she smiled and said no. However, the Duke unexpectedly saw through it. But I left you there for so many years. Lulu instinctively said the Duke must have had his reasons. You must have had your reasons. Surely there was a reason. Now that I'm home, it's all fine. I don't want you to think that way. No matter what reasons I had, I shouldn't have left you in such a place. So you can cry as much as you want. Hearing this, Lulu's emotions once again overcame her reason. Tears flowed uncontrollably. Leaning on her father's chest, she kept accusing. Why did you come so late? Why did you leave me alone? Do you know how scared I was? Do you know how much I missed you? Seeing his daughter's heartbroken appearance, the Duke nearly ground his back teeth to dust. He quickly pulled her into his arms. I was wrong. The brief, "I'm sorry," made Lulu feel very warm. At this moment, they were like a real father and daughter, and the Duke was a father who belonged only to her. Many friends ask where to read Lulu. Look for this app. After opening, type in Lulu Reads Korean Manhwa completely. Click this to read for free. Or look for this black square. Click the magnifying glass. Type, "I am the group's pet," and click to watch. Hurry and be the first to show off. A 4-year-old child actually doesn't know her own name. The Duke's father became angry on the spot. That day, the Duke was holding an emergency meeting. Constant chirping noises came from outside. Everyone's hearts were in their throats. After all, the Duke would never tolerate such noise. When the sound became urgent, the Duke suddenly became serious. Without a word, he stood up. He opened the window and jumped down into the courtyard. Everyone was confused, and their gazes followed him. It turned out the source of the sound was Lulu. At this moment, her punishment was randomly taking effect. "Daddy, come catch me." Her adorable appearance was like a little cotton ball. Everyone was very nervous, afraid the Duke would lose his temper with her. But unexpectedly, the Duke picked her up in one motion. He even smiled and reminded her that falling would hurt. Who would believe such reduplicated words would come from the bloodthirsty Duke's mouth? Before the meeting begins, I have something important to say. Everyone should pay close attention. At these words, everyone present became extremely nervous. But the Duke, while adjusting Lulu's shoes, said, "If you hear this kind of sound, don't worry. But if you hear this urgent sound, immediately enter battle readiness." If you don't want to know the consequences of something happening to my daughter, remember this clearly. Instantly, everyone was forced to be energized like they'd been injected with adrenaline, declaring enthusiastically that they would treat this sound as a war horn and give their all for the young lady. At this moment, Lulu was released from her punishment state and felt utterly embarrassed. At this time, the retainers mentioned whether to let Lulu participate in the victory ceremony. The Duke thought his daughter was still too young, and there was no need for others to see her so early. In that case, I'll remove the young lady's name from the list. Hearing this, Lulu's eyes suddenly lit up. She tugged on the Duke's clothes and asked softly, "Daddy, what's my name? And how old am I now?" Everyone was shocked. Even the meeting was urgently interrupted. Before, at the Marquis's mansion, no one had called her by name. She was always called illegitimate daughter, dirty trash, or imbecile, so she really wanted to know her own name. Lulu thought she had made a mistake. Sitting alone in the room, she made wild guesses. No need to recall. Suddenly, the Duke's voice came through. Although his face was still serious, now she understood. Father was just not good at expressing himself. Although I don't know my name and age, I'm not pitiful at all, because I have you. The Duke smiled and poked his daughter's face in agreement. That's right, Luadisha. Your name is Luadisha. Lulu's memory was awakened. As a baby, she vaguely heard this name. Please call me again. All right, Luadisha. And so, time passed to the next morning. As soon as Lulu opened her eyes, she saw a drool-covered mask. The Duke father was staring straight at her. The girl opened her eyes and found herself lying in the Duke father's arms. She was so scared that she retreated hundreds of meters in an instant, very confused about why father was sleeping here. Suddenly, last night's memory came back. It turned out the punishment took effect. She cried and fussed, not letting him go. She even said she would hate him if he left. Father was instantly filled with shame. The Duke affectionately called her a little crybaby while carefully wiping away her tears. Then, he took off his outer clothes that were wet with Lulu's drool. A hideous scar was revealed. Does it hurt a lot? The Duke said it was fine, but his hands covered his daughter's eyes, afraid she would be scared by it. But Lulu actively pulled his hands down, asking if this was a wound from the battlefield. The Duke denied it, and Lulu didn't ask further. She directly crawled over and started blowing on it. Injured places should be blown on so they won't hurt. This is an old wound. It doesn't hurt anymore. But I couldn't blow on it for you back then. Whenever you're hurt, it will hurt. Let all fly away. The Duke was touched by this. After all, those malicious gazes were the same. Then when you first came to the mansion and got sick, I should have done this to you. This was something Lulu didn't know. At that time, the Duke would go to see her every night. Because he returned from the front lines early, the Emperor was very displeased. So he had to go to the palace every day and could only return late at night. I never felt pain when I was at the front lines, because I only thought about bringing you home quickly. These were things Lulu had never understood before. He had always thought he was abandoned. The Duke gently stroked his daughter's face. He sincerely apologized, and Lulu forgave him right then and there. But if I stayed home, even if you weren't there, it would have been much better, right? However, the Duke had a reason for doing this. You're a special child, because you were born without magical energy. Lulu thought she would be suspected of not being his biological daughter. Unexpectedly, the Duke just said, without magical energy, she was no different from ordinary babies. If she stayed at home, she wouldn't be able to withstand the magical energy emitted by her brothers and die prematurely. It will be different when I'm home. But at that time, I had to go to war. Marquis Talenka, as your uncle, voluntarily offered to take care of you. To protect you, I sent you there. During this time, I also received reports saying you were living well there. The Duke apologized to his daughter with remorse. But Lulu knew the Duke was just trying to protect her, who had no magical energy. And the culprit behind all this was Marquis Talenka. I hope you know, I never thought of abandoning you. Lulu finally asked that question that had been troubling her for so long. Even if I don't have magical energy, are you still my dad? The Duke's attitude was firm and serious. He promised that no matter what happens, it would be so. Lulu finally couldn't hold back and burst into tears. The two embraced tightly like this. He had made many demands of the demon before, but actually, as an orphan since childhood, the only thing he wanted was a loving family. That's all. The girl only learned today that she was 4 years old. Her birthday is October 11th, and this year had already passed. The Duke father noticed her disappointment. He promised that when celebrating her 5th birthday, it would be grander than the royal families. Lulu knew her father was feeling guilty about the past, so she comforted him, saying, "Dad, you sent me a dress every year as a birthday gift. Although Clara took them away, I still felt very happy." Hearing this, the Duke became very angry. "That ignorant woman, how dare she take away what belongs to you?" The Duke's face showed a fierce expression, but Lulu beside him was very happy, because even when her father was fighting to the death on the battlefield, he never forgot about his little daughter. "I thought you didn't like my birthday." The Duke was very confused by his daughter's words, and Lulu, in fact, had always been afraid to ask about her mother. But today she decided to find out. "Uncle said that on the day I was born, Mom became a star in the sky." The Duke was so angry that his magical aura scattered, but he still tried his best to control himself. He embraced his daughter and patiently explained, "Your mother didn't become a star in the sky that day. She not only breastfed you, but also personally named you." Lulu smiled happily. Now knowing this, she liked her name even more. "It seems Mom really liked me. She loved you very much. She was even reluctant to put you down from her arms. Your birthday is a day that should be celebrated. So from now on, we will never let it pass casually." The Duke's hands were rough, but in Lulu's eyes, they were the biggest and warmest hands. Although she was curious about the cause of her mother's death, she didn't ask further to avoid making her father sad. "We've made a promise. You'll always be my dad." The Duke smiled and reached out to pinky swear with his daughter, but he was pulled over to do childish gestures of stamping, signing, and photocopying. After doing all this, Lulu felt relieved. "No matter what happens in the future, you'll always be my dad." It's unknown where the little one got such strength as the Duke's hand became red and swollen. At this moment, the Duke caught her off guard. "Even if I'm not handsome, it's the same. Even if I have no money and don't indulge your every whim, it's the same." Lulu then remembered what the punishment zodiac had said before she knew how to respond. The Duke answered his own question. "You don't need to worry. I meet all these conditions, as expected of the confidence from the first handsome man and the richest man. Do you also meet the condition of indulging my every whim?" The Duke smiled and replied, "Of course." In his heart, he firmly thought, even if she asked him to die, he would gladly do so. Earlier in the meeting, when they learned that Lulu didn't know her own name, all the ministers were very angry. After all, even the child support money had been embezzled in the past few years. After the Duke cut off Talenka's source of funds, perceptive investors started withdrawing their investments, and those who had invested in magic stones were also watching for cues. Now is the era of money and power. Compared to poor nobles, wealthy capitalists have more advantages. The Duke clearly knew when Talenka gradually loses everything like this, he will feel extremely miserable and painful. But compared to what his daughter went through, this was far from enough. The 4-year-old girl finally summoned her novel extraction ability for the first time. Just now, Lulu was comfortably lying in bed when she kept hearing the sound of an alarm clock ringing. She angrily got up and cursed loudly, but she found a text box popping up. Duke Paladun was planning to strike against Talenka. Lulu was very happy to learn this news, but the system predicted her prediction. You shouldn't be too happy. The real revenge plot is to take revenge with your own hands. Lulu was completely shocked. She was stunned. How could a 4-year-old kid take revenge? However, the system didn't stop there. It required her to reclaim the property Talenka bought with child support money. Refusing the task would increase the probability of punishment taking effect, and during the task, the punishment state would be suspended. Seeing this, Lulu instantly changed her mind and accepted the task on the spot. She opened a nearby drawer. She decided to use the novel borrowing right. Instantly, the system voice sounded, "Please say the name of the novel you want to summon." Lulu waved her little hand. She immediately decided on this one. Seduce 10 men in a reverse harem. Extract the ability of the female lead in it. She didn't actually expect to summon this novel, because the plot in it was quite boring. She had only read half of it before giving up. Based on the current level, only one ability could be randomly extracted. But Lulu confidently stretched out her hand, believing it was time to make up for the unfortunate 100 gold coins. Ability effect. The emotional state of the specified target will be marked in the form of information. This was equivalent to mind reading. However, because she didn't finish reading the book, she couldn't get the complete ability. But this should be more than enough to deal with the Marquis. Meanwhile, Marquis Talenka was being forced to return investment funds. He calmly took out the check for the child support he received at the time. He also said the Duke was deliberately spreading false news just to clear out other investors, so he could monopolize the profits. A few people were skeptical. After all, such lies could easily be exposed. But in everyone's eyes, the Paladin family was indeed notorious. It wasn't impossible for them to do such things. At this time, someone proposed to see the contract between the two, proving that the Duke was indeed involved in the investment. But the cunning Talenka managed to brush it off with a few words. However, he still asked for some time to consider. Just then, the butler announced that a guest had arrived. It was Duke Paladin's. The woman was very happy to learn that her abused niece had returned. She thought she must have been unable to bear Duke Paladin's torment and ran back. If she could coax her well at this time, she could use her to scam more money. Then they could lie and say the Duke heard everyone was withdrawing their investments. So he added more investment funds. The man confidently thought the greenhouse garden scene must have captivated Lulu. She must be crying and begging to come back now. But when he eagerly opened the door and looked, he found Lulu dressed very elegantly, completely different from what he had imagined. He asked, trying to maintain composure, "I heard you came to see me." Lulu smiled and replied she came to get her money back. Then she silently activated her mind-reading ability on the man. Hearing this, Talenka instantly became extremely fierce, as if he wanted to devour Lulu alive. The guards nearby wanted to step forward to protect her, but Lulu stopped them. "I don't need to be polite to someone who stole my money." The Marquis's face instantly twisted. He accused Lulu of being ungrateful. "I didn't throw you on the street. I raised you this big. You should be grateful." At this moment, the man wondered if Lulu had taken the wrong medicine or if she was mentally unstable. The magic mine and mining rights, weren't they all bought with my child support money? The man still quibbled, saying that was investment money from Duke Paladin. So in the end, it was all bought with Paladin's money. Although Talenka was very angry at being toyed with by Lulu, he regained his composure. This made Lulu very confused. Was this not what he was worried about? So Lulu tentatively brought up the magic or mine. Sure enough, it caused the man's unease. "Why are you so flustered? It's as if you're desperately hiding something. It looks quite pitiful." Obviously, the man's patience had reached its limit. His inner turmoil was severe. Just then, a servant came and whispered a few words. Talenka then hurriedly left the place. Lulu's heart was about to break. How could she complete the task now? Just as she was planning to steal the documents, a nearby guard mentioned that there were nobles here, who seemed to have made a decision and were waiting for the Marquis. Lulu instantly understood what was happening. Very well, it's time for a public execution. In a reception room, several noble investors decided to cancel their decision to withdraw investments. This delighted the Marquis. However, the next second, Lulu's voice rang out. "I think you all should reconsider. Hello everyone, I am Laodicea, daughter of Duke Paladin. I greet you all." The 4-year-old girl just used a small trick and let us all see through the true face of the evil uncle. Just now, Lulu burst into the reception room, stopping the nobles from canceling their decision to withdraw investments. Talenka jumped in rage, telling Lulu to get out, but others stopped him. "What did you mean when you just told us to reconsider?" Lulu didn't rush to explain, but first flattered everyone with compliments. This undoubtedly made everyone feel pleased. Then she raised her question. "Uncle said my dad invested in the magic stone mine. Why would he say such a thing?" It turns out Paladin's investment was a guarantee that the magic stones had magic. Everyone believed that families with magical aura could sense magic. This was equivalent to a 100% victory. But my dad denied it. Talenka hurriedly took out the check to prove the authenticity of the investment. But Lulu asked the key information. If that mine is full of magic, and just mining it would make a fortune, why does Uncle still need to accept investment from others? Talenka still wanted to muddle through by saying mining requires a lot of funds. But Lulu didn't let him succeed. "Isn't the money you embezzle from my dad enough for mining?" Instantly, everyone was amused and tried to hide their smiles. They believed that applying for mining rights and mining all require huge funds, so fundraising was necessary. However, Lulu confidently put her hands on her hips, chuckled, and said, "I know, but my dad can afford all the costs." Then why did he only invest such a small amount in Uncle's project? Of course, he should invest himself and profit alone. Why does Uncle need to find so many people together and only earn a little money? The people present had already started to waver. Lulu suddenly pulled out a checkbook from somewhere. Talenka instantly rushed forward to grab it, but a nearby count snatched it first. It was obvious that in the past year, what Duke Paladon had given was already more than enough. At this point, Lulu reminded, in spring and summer this year, Uncle's mansion had particularly many guests. Now everyone knew. Talenka had actually secretly mined the mountain, found there was no magic in it, and to make up for the losses, he sought investments. Then, he planned to push all the responsibility onto the Paladon family. With this, all doubts were cleared. Lulu happily reached out her hand to him. Uncle, you will return the money to me, right? The money from my dad that you embezzled. Many friends ask Lulu where to watch, or look for this black small square. Click the magnifying glass. Enter, I am the group's pet. Click to watch. Go quickly and show off first. The 4-year-old girl activates mind-reading skills, breaking through the evil uncle's defenses. Not only did she reclaim the ownership and mining rights of the mine, but also got a villa in a holiday resort and a horse ranch. Mission successfully completed. Obtained 3,000 gold coin lottery tickets. 3 nobles greatly admired your actions today. Your influence within the family has significantly increased. Lulu was immersed in the joy of the prompt. The next second, the punishment state took effect again. Just then, 3 nobles appeared. Lulu introduced herself with a smile. My name is Leodisha. It's the name my mother personally gave me. I'm already 4 years old. Everyone was very amazed. Her words and actions just now were not at all like a 4-year-old child. Now, there was still one mystery unsolved. Duke Paladon, why did he give money to Marquis Talenka? Lulu happily raised her hand and said she knew. Then she whispered in Duke de Vatlin's ear, because Daddy loves me very much. And I love Daddy the most in this world. Her adorable appearance instantly captured the hearts of the grandfather generation nobles. Everyone was in high spirits, until a retainer reminded them it was late and the Duke would worry. Only then did they wave goodbye. After Lulu left, Marquis Solid felt very puzzled. He seemed to have seen Lulu before at the Talenka mansion, but he didn't dwell on it. After all, the two were worlds apart. However, the count beside him seemed to hint at something. Children's recovery ability is amazing, as if they have unlimited possibilities. I look forward to seeing how she will grow up. Soon the carriage arrived at the Duke's mansion. The retainer cried emotionally to Lulu, "You are indeed of Paladon's bloodline. With such outstanding eloquence, you can make people believe even without magical aura." Seeing this, Lulu hurriedly wiped away her tears, but was just caught by the daughter-doting Duke. "You get along so well with my daughter, just like a loving family." The retainer's soul almost flew away, but Lulu, under the punishment state, was oblivious. She held his hand and nuzzled. "Is this okay? I'm a good child who keeps promises." This made the Duke's anger flare up even more. What promise? How curious indeed. After saying this, he dragged the person away from here. At this time, the butler led a group of maids to welcome them. They showered Lulu with care and concern. Lulu smiled sincerely. Now she too was a person with a family. The Duke, feared by all, actually thought his daughter was a dangerous existence. Though without magical aura, she could control others' bodies. Just like now, he very much wanted to stroke his daughter's soft hair. The adjutant nearby noticed the Duke's serious expression and hurriedly asked what had happened. "I find it strange. My little daughter seems to be able to control others, because she's the only one in the family without magical aura. So I'm not sure what this ability is." The Duke very seriously described his reactions under her control. The adjutant, upon hearing this, knew that this symptom is usually called being a daughter slave. But being very good at reading the situation, he didn't expose it. Instead, he agreed that it was indeed serious. Suddenly, the Duke very solemnly asked Lulu, "Are you sure you really understand what I'm saying?" Lulu confidently answered, "Yes." Just one smile made the Duke's heart pound against the wall. It was even heart-shaped. Indeed, it had a very strong destructive power. "Then let me confirm this extremely important question. What should you do if someone pats your head?" No. What if someone pokes your cheeks?" Don't. "Then what if someone invites you to eat snacks?" Dirty. "What if someone kisses your cheek?" Hit you. "What if someone wants to pick you up?" Kidnapper. The adjutant beside him was already too shocked by his master to speak. Severe daughter slave. It was confirmed. However, at this moment, the Duke suddenly wanted to pat his daughter, but was triple rejected by Lulu. No, don't. Kidnapper. The Duke never thought he would be indiscriminately attacked. He trembled in distress. The next second, Lulu delivered the fatal blow. She directly slapped his hand away. Dirty hit you. Good grief. His anxious heart finally died. Lulu didn't notice her old father's abnormality. She even asked expectantly, "Did I do well?" So this is what heartbreak feels like. That night, the Duke led a group of guards, broke into Marquis Talenka's mansion, and went on a killing spree. The man recklessly told him to leave immediately, or he would report to the Emperor. However, how could the enraged Duke have any scruples? Just as he was about to behead him, Talenka suddenly shouted, "Why are you doing this? I admit it was my fault to abuse the Paladin maid, but she's not your biological child. She was born from my sister's affair with another man." As soon as he finished speaking, the Marquis's mansion was turned upside down. The Duke's magical aura instantly burst out as he questioned, "What do you mean about my daughter? What man?" Recklessly slandering in front of the daughter-doting Duke, claiming his niece was a child born from his sister's affair. The Duke flew into a rage on the spot. He immediately gave his brother-in-law a slash. Surprisingly, he didn't die, just as Talenka was overjoyed because of this. The Duke took away the seal, representing Talenka's family head status. "The previous Marquis Talenka asked me to tell you. A person like you, let alone the position of Marquis, doesn't even deserve the Talenka surname." This was undoubtedly more painful than killing him. The Duke wanted him to live out his days with this pain. Yesterday, the news of Talenka being stripped of his title and demoted to commoner reached Lulu's ears. It turned out that initially, Talenka was only a temporary acting family head, unable to access many assets and secrets. Therefore, to gain recognition, he started recklessly expanding his business. But he was found to be involved in fraud and thus stripped of everything. Now, even his wife is suing him for divorce. Lulu asked what would happen to Clara. Originally, the Marchioness wanted to take her daughter away, but Clara cried and refused. She thought that would mean being downgraded from a Marquis family to a Viscount family. That girl is in a Duke's family, while I have to go to a Viscount family. I disagree. I want to go to the former Marquis. After explaining this situation, Nancy was called over to pack luggage. Judging by their preparations, it seemed like they were going to move the entire mansion. A week later, after the Duke attends the victory ceremony, they will leave the imperial capital for the Paladin Duchy. Lulu didn't expect her father to be the Northern Duke, the protagonist of the novel. Although extremely cold, he's very gentle to his daughter. It's simply wonderful. Just then, a message popped up, updating ability value information window. Distributing extra reward, lucky potion. Related task has arrived. Hope you can work hard to make money and get rich in the future. Lulu didn't want to bother. She's already so rich, why work? However, when she saw the task, she was shocked. Not only was there no failure punishment, but also a reward of 10,000 gold coins. How could she miss such a good opportunity? She immediately accepted the task. There were 2 ongoing tasks. Lulu then realized she hadn't carefully read the question, causing her to fail completing the task. She immediately regretted it. Lulu's self-talk confused the maid sister. To avoid exposure, she quickly pretended to be talking to her little hamster. This made the maids incredibly charmed. "Our young lady is so adorable. It's completely different from what we felt when taking care of the young masters." Hearing this, Lulu immediately became interested. "My brothers must be as handsome as Dad." So she asked expectantly, "What are my brothers like?" However, she was met with the maid's indescribable expressions. It was truly an ominous feeling. Many friends asked Lulu where to watch, or look for this black square. Click the magnifying glass, enter "I am the family's darling," and click to watch. Go, and be the first to show off. The girl traveled to the novel world for 4 years. She finally met her rumored handsome brothers. Today was the day the Duke returned to the city. The butler had decorated the mansion to its original state early on. Only this dark and solemn, terrifying atmosphere was fitting for the Duke. A servant nearby reminded that such an environment might scare the young lady. After all, rumors said the Duke was returning for her. However, The butler didn't believe such rumors at all. Welcoming his lordship's return was not to be taken lightly. Meanwhile, Lulu was in the carriage returning home, wearing a fluffy white bear costume. She was sweating profusely from the heat. The Duke was puzzled why she didn't take it off if it was so hot, but Lulu thought it was a gesture of goodwill from the maid sisters. Although hot, it made her very happy. The Duke thought about it very seriously. This might be the feeling of something troublesome and useless, yet one wants to allow it. Lulu knew her father was referring to the time she blew on his wound. Pouting unhappily, she explained, "When you were injured, I couldn't blow on it in time. Though it's late now, I wanted to do something to make up for it. I didn't expect you to say it's troublesome." Suddenly, the Duke reached out and pinched her little face. With a doting and serious expression, he said, "Lulu, thank you." Soon, the carriage arrived at the northern lake bottom. Everyone's reaction to Lulu was disbelief. Where had the Duke family's ruthlessness gone? Suddenly, Lulu sneezed due to the cold weather. The Duke immediately asked with a dark face if she was cold. This made the butler exclaim, "Not good. Master, this is going to make the young lady feel cold forever." However, Lulu's personal maid shouted, "Emergency!" The young lady sneezed. "Quickly bring the adorable young lady inside." The northern servants thought they were crazy. Isn't this just asking for trouble? But what was even more shocking was, the Duke directly picked up Lulu and walked towards a room. Who would believe this was the cold-blooded, ruthless Duke from not long ago? At this moment, two brothers appeared on the stairs. Their stunningly beautiful faces made Lulu instantly change sides. She immediately gave this world a perfect score to leave a good impression. She introduced herself with a beaming smile. She thought the third brother, Salowin, was a warm, sister-doting type. Unexpectedly, the boy's face changed instantly. He mocked, "So you're that frail little girl. Since you've been received, I'll take my leave now." Lulu was petrified on the spot, but the third brother turned and warned, "Being too weak makes it easy to die." Lulu was so scared she couldn't speak. The second brother, Aries, however, approached and showed concern. "The capital is much warmer than here. You must be very cold. My sister can't be frozen." Lulu instantly saw her second brother as her light, even thanking that demon in her heart. However, things weren't that simple. The brother actually raised his hand against his cute sister. Just now, Lulu had finally arrived at her father's northern mansion. The cold weather was unbearable, but it was also a good time for hot springs. This was something she couldn't even dream of in her previous life. After warming up, changing into comfortable clothes was perfect. It was time to win over her brothers. Lulu happily greeted the two of them. The second brother, Aries, also smiled and beckoned her over. The girl happily ran over with her short legs. Then she gently jumped onto the seat. However, the third brother, Salowin, seemed very unhappy. A simple greeting would suffice. Why arrange such an occasion to get closer? Lulu was displeased when she heard this. Fortunately, Aries diverted her attention. "I was surprised when I first saw you. I never thought I'd have such an adorable sister. Let's get along well from now on." From this moment on, Lulu regarded her second brother as an angel. The two chatted happily, very harmoniously. However, Salowin beside them was very disdainful. "Did you eat something wrong? What's so good about this frail girl? She's cute. Seems like there's a problem with your eyes." Lulu was now more convinced that her second brother was an angel. If she had such a disrespectful younger brother, she would definitely beat him up. Despite saying this, the third brother's looks were truly exceptional. It made Lulu unconsciously smile foolishly at him. "What's with that expression? It's so annoying." Lulu explained that being attracted to beautiful things is uncontrollable. It's human nature. The second brother beside her instantly looked dejected. "So you like Salowin's type?" Lulu panicked. How could the angel show such a sad expression? So she hurriedly explained loudly, "Brother Aries is the most handsome, much better than the third brother." Now Salowin, who was caught in the crossfire, became unhappy. His demonic aura was about to explode in an instant. However, the system jumped out again. "Teach this ignorant person a lesson. Let your prestige soar." Lulu thought it didn't matter if she didn't get along with certain people in the family, but the system wouldn't let her have her way. Refusing the task would mean exiting life. Since that's the case, she had to win him over no matter what. The next second, Salowin's demonic aura flew towards Lulu. But at the last second, it was caught single-handedly by Aries. The boy changed his usual demeanor. He said seriously, Don't bully our sister so excessively. To save her life, the girl actually pretended to be a white lotus like in TV dramas. Just now, the third brother attacked Lulu, but was stopped by the second brother. Unexpectedly, this excited Salwin. He thought dealing with him would be more interesting. Lulu was relieved in her heart that the angel wasn't provoked. But the next second, Aries was about to teach his younger brother about respecting elders. As their demonic aura made the teacups shake, the expressions on their faces also became very excited. When the city gate is on fire, it's the fish in the moat that suffer. The fantasy life that had just begun couldn't end like this. So she gritted her teeth and stomped her foot as if making some kind of decision. I'm sorry, this is all because Lulu is too cute. Please don't fight because of Lulu. With this, the two instantly cooled down. They just stare at the girl, dumbfounded. You both like Lulu, so Lulu will properly restrain her cuteness from now on. It was truly a case of hurting the enemy 800 while losing 1,000 herself. The two instantly lost their temper, thus ending this crisis. Lulu knew that even though she had muddled through the recent predicament, this couldn't be left at that. After all, it concerned her life and death. However, having read countless fantasy novels, she was confident in resolving this matter. Unfortunately, they were all cleaner than a face, so she couldn't summon the female lead's ability. Otherwise, winning over Salwin would be a matter of minutes. Currently, she could only use the remaining mind-reading and fantasy knowledge. Countless female protagonists, I will certainly heed all your teachings. Starting from the next day, Lulu kept following right behind Salwin. This made the boy very annoyed. Why you always follow me? And wearing such noisy shoes. Lulu pretended to be very shy, saying she wanted to play with him. And Dad told me to wear these shoes. Now the third son, who absolutely obeyed his father's orders, had nothing to say. But he turned and said, Aries, that guy isn't here. No one can protect you. You say you want to play with me. Why don't we try if your frail body can withstand my demonic aura? Lulu used mind reading to know the boy was in a great mood now, very much looking forward to what her reaction would be. However, Lulu not only wasn't scared, but even happily said Salwin was playing with her. This made the boy very irritated, but Lulu pretended not to understand. I know you want to play hide and seek with me. Now it's your turn to catch me. After saying this, Lulu ran behind him, confidently thinking Salwin wanted to tease him. She thought he was still too naive. However, the next second, she slipped and was about to fall down the stairs. She comforted herself, thinking at times like this, brothers would always come to the rescue. But Salwin stood still, not moving at all. At the critical moment, a hand suddenly caught her. The girl slipped and was about to roll down the stairs and die. The previously motionless third brother suddenly appeared and saved her. Lulu happily thought she had conquered him, but looking up, she saw an extremely disgusted expression. Salwin didn't know why he saved her. He was very unhappy at the moment. Lulu reluctantly asked Salwin if he found her annoying. As expected, she got an affirmative answer. However, Lulu shyly said, but I want to get along well with you. This made the boy, who usually disliked being close to people, at a loss. Just then, the Duke suddenly appeared. Lulu ran with her short legs and jumped in her dad's arms. Have you finished your business? If not, can't you have dinner with me? The Duke affectionately poked his daughter's cheek and said softly, there's always time to have dinner with Lulu. Salwin could hardly believe it. He couldn't get used to this scene, no matter how many times he saw it. Suddenly, the Duke asked if they were both together just now. Were you bullied? Now Salwin panicked. He did indeed scare her with his demonic aura several times. It's better to be honest this time. But just as he was about to speak, Lulu quickly denied it first. Salwin has been playing with me all along. It was so much fun. Now the boy was confused. He didn't know why she said that. A strange feeling arose in his heart. However, at this moment, the old father asked with a hurt expression, is it more fun than being with Dad? Both of them had helpless looks on their faces. Only the Duke was eagerly awaiting the answer. From that day on, Salwin disappeared without a trace. The mansion was too big, Lulu couldn't find him anywhere. She had also used up all her mind-reading abilities. This made her frustrated and she shouted, this is really worrying me to death. This scene was coincidentally seen by Aries. Although you look cute when you sigh, but when I think that my sister has something on her mind, it hurts my heart. So can you tell me what's bothering you? Lulu pouted unhappily. Actually, Salwin keeps hiding from me. I want to get closer to her, but she always says I'm annoying. I hate it. At this moment, Aries glanced at the pillar, pretending to be aggrieved and jealous. It seems Lulu likes Salwin more. This shocked Lulu greatly. She hurriedly explained that Brother Aries was the most important, and Salowin couldn't compare to him at all. "You're simply a blessing in my life." Lulu wanted to say more, but Aries suddenly kissed her on the cheek. He even said with a smile that it was his honor. Goodness, who could resist this? This bright smile resembled an angel's. Who would have thought he was actually a wolf in sheep's clothing, deliberately provoking and kissing his sister in front of his brother, angering his brother so much that he crushed the pillar. He even stopped Lulu, who wanted to investigate. Before leaving, he even showed a triumphant smile, as well as a complex expression. After returning, Lulu learned from the maid sisters that Salowin never liked appearing in crowded places. The fact that he could be seen often before proved he wasn't deliberately avoiding. And now that he couldn't be found, it meant he really didn't want to see her recently. Lulu was instantly thunderstruck. Could those actions have had the opposite effect? She tried to think from Salowin's perspective. Perhaps she was disliked because she had no magical aura. Therefore, Lulu inquired about magical aura from several sisters. Specifically, what exactly it is. It's understood that magical aura is a power that only the Paladin family passes down through generations. Different from a magician's magic or a knight's spiritual power. It's a very special kind of power, but it's also a power that people are very afraid of. Lulu, who had read countless fantasy novels, immediately realized that magical aura might be the power of demons. This statement greatly frightened the maids. They hurriedly explained that although such rumors exist, magical aura is indeed an overwhelmingly powerful force. Just one glance is enough to instill fear in people. However, Lulu didn't think so, because she had already seen magical aura several times. She didn't think black was beautiful before, but later found it so beautiful it made her forget to breathe. Magical aura is like the night, allowing people to close their eyes and rest, warmer than anything else. This statement not only moved the maids, but was also heard by her brother outside the window. You heard what she said too, right? Last time you even shattered the pillar. Can't you take this chance to control your temper a bit? Salowin in the tree looked thoughtful. He remembered Lulu saying to her father that it was fun being with him, then turning around and saying he couldn't compare to Aries at all. He felt conflicted and angry inside. So before leaving, he said, "I don't believe the words of such a liar." The next day, it was Lulu's first council meeting since returning to the mansion. They were very shocked about Lulu reclaiming the mine. Viscount Dill, who witnessed it firsthand, was extremely proud. He even self-proclaimed to be a member of Lulu's support club afterwards. Everyone's praise made Lulu a bit embarrassed, but she didn't forget the task she was currently undertaking. So she asked her father, "Can I manage the mine we took back from Uncle?" Everyone was stunned. They hurriedly stated that Lulu was still young and hadn't received financial education. They feared she would quickly lose all the money. However, the Duke made a boss-like declaration. "It's fine even if she loses it all. I have plenty of money." Who wouldn't love such a domineering and doting dad? A 4-year-old child wanting to manage a mine alone. This undoubtedly met with opposition from the retainers. But the Duke agreed without even thinking about it. He thought it didn't matter even if she lost everything. "My daughter wants to play with her own things. What's the problem? I don't want to hear any more of your nonsense." Everyone was very surprised. Only Viscount Dill was grinning like a madman. After the meeting, he took a cherry black forest cake, intending to give it to Lulu. But on the way, he ran into Butler Allen. He excitedly introduced his gift to the butler, curious about what Lulu's reaction would be today. Would she be happy? Or would she have a "you're here again" expression? Just thinking about it was exciting. The Viscount had clearly gone mad. Meanwhile, Salowin was venting at the training ground. Recently, Lulu had made him become very violent. Even his teacher noticed his unusual behavior. Is it because of a young lady? Just mentioning it made Salowin's expression instantly turn cold and terrifying. It made even the teacher start to tremble. Salowin believed people would naturally be afraid of magical aura. This had always been his feeling. But Lulu said magical aura was like the night, a warm night that allows people to close their eyes and rest. It was utter nonsense, just a carefully crafted lie to cling to the strong. He firmly believed in his own deduction, but he was very concerned inside. He looked everywhere for Lulu's figure. Perhaps now he couldn't find his favorite Aries to be with. Why? The annoying footsteps he heard every day were gone. Salowin suddenly became uneasy until he saw one of Lulu's shoes in the courtyard. He immediately understood Lulu had been kidnapped. Indeed, this was the fate of the weak. Fragile people would only end up like this. This was the idea he had held for many years. But a voice kept ringing in his heart. Find her, find her. I must find her. Salomon almost turned the entire mansion upside down. Finally, at the edge of the forest near the mansion, he found several figures. Salomon was extremely angry at this moment. In an instant, the two men turned into a pool of blood. Only Lulu was left, covered in blood and trembling. Seeing his sister's terrified face, Salomon's eyes immediately turned red. Indeed, saying she wasn't afraid was all a lie. The boy tore apart the two who kidnapped his sister on the spot, leaving only his sister trembling in a pool of blood. He sadly believed Lulu was terrified of him, more convinced that her previous understanding and liking were all pretense. But just then, a pair of small hands covered in blood suddenly appeared. The girl smiled through tears and expressed gratitude. His expression became even more gloomy. He thought Lulu was still lying even in this situation. A murderous intent suddenly arose in his heart. Aren't you very afraid? Lulu instinctively froze for a moment. This made him more certain that Lulu was a liar. But unexpectedly, the girl who was just pretending to be strong suddenly burst into tears. Yes, I was indeed very scared just now. You bad guy, why did you come so late? Why? Lulu kept hitting Salomon repeatedly. The boy was stunned on the spot. What's going on? We seem to be very dependent on him, as if it was natural for him to come and rescue. Salomon unconsciously squatted down. Lulu's emotions collapsed on the spot. She hugged her brother and started crying loudly. The hot breath suddenly rushed over. Salomon couldn't help but feel that if she kept crying like this, Lulu would melt like cotton candy. This incident quickly spread throughout the mansion. Everyone was shocked. It also ignited the Duke's anger. Although everyone was sticking to their posts, such a thing still happened. Ares also came forward to accuse. How dare you let my sister be in danger? How will you bear this guilt? The retainers knew they couldn't escape blame and immediately began investigating. The kidnappers were members of the Dark Guild. They seemed to have received a commission from someone to carry out the kidnapping. But now all the people are dead. It will take some time to investigate the real culprit behind the scenes. At this moment, Lulu suddenly appeared. She asked why they didn't ask her. However, the Duke didn't want his daughter to recall unpleasant things. But Lulu said she was a member of Peiradon and should contribute. And I know who the culprit is. It turned out that Lulu had received a new mission, so she rushed over in a hurry. Someone previously asked me to go to Salomon's training ground. That person was Deal. He was the girl's #1 fan. Today, he was accused of being the criminal who kidnapped the girl. At first, everyone thought it was unbelievable, but then they began to doubt. The Viscount himself was anxious to explain. He loved the young lady so much. He couldn't possibly do such a thing. However, Lulu coldly said, "Stop playing the emotional card, uncle. The truth of this matter can be confirmed with just a check." Then Lulu asked the adjutant. Salomon was indeed at the training ground in the afternoon, but he only stayed for less than 10 minutes before leaving. This means that when Lulu finished her snack, Salomon had already left. If Lulu had stayed in the main castle as usual, she would have definitely met him. But on Viscount Deal's recommendation, Lulu went to the terrace in the Eastern Garden. This means that unless Salomon deliberately took a detour, it would be impossible for the two to meet. In other words, that place was the best spot for abduction. The Viscount was at a loss for words. He just kept emphasizing that he was a loyal subject. But then Lulu surprised everyone by saying, "I know. Now tell me, who was the criminal who tried to lure me?" Everyone, including the Viscount, was completely baffled. Lulu continued, "Uncle, think carefully. You must know who the culprit is." Deal suddenly remembered that before he went to find Lulu, he had encountered a man who told him that the terrace in the Eastern Garden had been enchanted with a warming spell and had Lulu's favorite flowers. It was perfect for enjoying a delicious afternoon tea. That person was Butler Arong. Upon hearing this, the Duke angrily ordered the butler to be brought in. Ares, however, smiled and praised Lulu for her intelligence, as if he had known the culprit's identity all along. At this moment, the butler was brought in. He was still quibbling, saying he had only recommended a place for afternoon tea. But soldiers had found a kidnapping commission and mysterious communication tools in his room. Even so, the butler still wouldn't confess. The Duke ordered on the spot to lock him in the Crystal Tower. He would personally interrogate him. Everyone was shocked by Lulu's intelligence. Deal felt this even more strongly. He burst into tears on the spot. He even worshipped Lulu like a saint, thanking her for her deep trust. He was the very picture of a fanatical fan. Seeing this, the Duke directly ordered him to be dragged away. Then, with a gloomy face, he said, "Now that the culprit has been caught, you will use your lives to take responsibility for your negligence." The 4-year-old Duke's daughter was kidnapped at home. This made the daughter-doting Duke very angry. He immediately demanded that his retainers commit suicide to atone. Everyone was trembling with fear. Lulu, not wanting to implicate others, hurriedly explained that it was her own wandering that caused this incident. But the Duke didn't accept this explanation, as his daughter was just moving around at home. "I hired them to ensure your safety. You're so smart, you should understand what I mean." Lulu knew that in this situation, she could only use that move. So with teary eyes, she said, "Is it because Lulu didn't stay obediently in her room that you want to scold Big Sister and the uncles? If that's the case, Lulu will stay in her room for the rest of her life. After all, it's all Lulu's fault." However, things didn't develop as she imagined. Brother Aries actually said this idea wasn't bad. "My dear sister, I will send the sky, flowers, and jewels to your room." Lulu was already screaming internally. On the surface, she could only continue pretending. Then Lulu might die soon from lack of exercise. "It seems I can only say goodbye forever to Dad and brothers." Upon hearing this, both of them were stunned. They immediately changed their minds and announced they would deal with it another day. Everyone couldn't believe it. The usually autocratic Duke actually canceled the punishment because of the young lady's few words. So everyone was shouting thanks in their hearts. A series of system text boxes popped up. "Revenge of the Magpie. Task completed. Reward, 5,000 gold coins. Family influence greatly increased. 8,000 gold coins awarded. Plus, a surprise reward of up to 20,000 gold coins can be drawn." The series of rewards made Lulu's jaw drop. She hurried back to her room to check the status window. She found that the task related to Salwin still hadn't been completed. It meant the boy still didn't consider her family. Although Lulu felt a bit wronged, she was still grateful that he saved her. To get the power to conquer Salwin, she decided to draw the gold coins first. So she happily summoned the big wheel. But she found that the so-called 20,000 gold coins only occupied a pitifully thin line, while the rest were either "thank you for playing" or 10 gold coins. Isn't this clearly a scam? So Lulu immediately took out a luck potion and drank it without hesitation. Unexpectedly, it still tasted like mint chocolate. It was simply delicious. Suddenly, a surge of power erupted. Lulu opened all the lottery tickets at once. After a flash of bright light, the girl was completely stunned. The unlucky girl drank the luck potion and instantly became super lucky. She immediately got 26,000 gold coins. It was like an old lady riding a bridal sedan for the first time. Riding this momentum, Lulu immediately summoned the novel, The Short-Lived Villainess Doesn't Need Love. As long as she gets the female lead's ability, she can confirm Salwin's favorability. At the same time, Salwin, lying on the bed, suddenly spoke weakly. "Are you going to kill me now?" The person who came was actually Aries. The cunning boy smiled slightly. "How could that be? Even if I kill you this way, it won't prove my ability. I didn't expect you to be so childish. You should be grateful that the magical energy didn't go berserk then. Otherwise, you would have lost your body by now." It turned out that at that time, Salwin, in order to find Lulu quickly, had spread his magical energy throughout the Duke's mansion. This also meant that he had gambled with his own life. Salwin knew he couldn't go berserk. Otherwise, not only himself, but even Lulu would lose her life. "I heard Lulu came to see you several times, but you didn't meet her. That little one was heartbroken. It's really amazing. You actually opened up to her." Salwin stubbornly refused to admit it. Aries didn't say anything more. He just blindfolded his eyes. Then he began to replenish the magical energy. "Why are you helping me?" "Because you're my cute little brother. As your big brother, of course I should help you." Such words couldn't make Salwin happy. But Aries turned around, preparing to leave. Before leaving, he advised Salwin, "Don't lock yourself in a room just because you don't want Lulu to see your vulnerable side. Lulu misses you." Although Salwin was a bit annoyed by what he said, it was also thanks to him that his broken body was fully recovered. Thinking about what Aries had just said, he came to the window barefoot, because he knew the cotton ball was always eye-catching no matter where she was. Salwin smiled rarely. He decided to go see Lulu to tell her that he wasn't someone she could see whenever she wanted. Lulu, holding freshly picked flowers, ran towards Salwin with a smile. This surprised the boy. Even after seeing that scene, she still wasn't afraid of him. After all, everyone else was already trembling with fear just seeing the black magical energy. Just thinking that Lulu might be like that too, his mood became very bad. He disliked this kind of thought of his. So he suddenly released magical energy towards Lulu. He deceived himself, thinking what the little cotton ball thought had nothing to do with him. Even if she immediately coughed up blood, it wouldn't matter to him. However, the next second, Lulu suddenly coughed violently. Fresh blood immediately stained the bouquet red. The boy deliberately used magical energy to test his sister. He wanted to prove that he couldn't possibly be affected by her. But his sister suddenly coughed up blood and fainted on the ground. Everyone present was stunned, and the most panicked was the person involved. Actually, this was just caused by the ability Lulu had just acquired. The more loved she was by those around her, the more she would cough up blood, and this blood would expel the bad things. It was a sign that her body was constantly improving. So encountering Salowin's magical energy and coughing up blood was actually a good thing. It was proof that he was loved. However, Salowin, not knowing the truth, was completely panicked. Lulu in his arms struggled to tell him she was fine, but fell asleep before finishing her words. She looked as peaceful as if she had died. This terrified Salowin. He kept shaking her tiny body, begging her not to die. After the incident, the Duke came to his daughter's side. He immediately called for a doctor. The diagnosis showed she was very healthy. The blood coughing was just to expel impurities. How come you never let me feel at ease? First you were kidnapped, now you're coughing up blood. The Duke couldn't help but recall their first meeting when she was skinny and trembling. He thought just feeding her well would solve everything, but she demanded to stay by his side. She was really demanding and clingy. The Duke said this, but his heart was very sweet. Just calling his daughter's name felt like eating dessert. Even if he was manipulated by his daughter for life, he would be willing. Meanwhile, Salowin was guarding at the door. Seeing his father come out, he immediately stood up to inquire about the situation. He had obviously just cried. It's all my fault. It's because I always use magical energy on her. The boy was at a loss like a lost child. This was the first time he had shown such an expression. Do you remember why we sent Lulu to other places before? I remember it was to protect her from being hurt by magical energy. That's right, and what's different now is with me in this city, magical energy can't hurt her at all. Despite these words, Salowin still felt very guilty. He had already accepted her in his heart, yet he deliberately enveloped her with magical energy again and again, just to test if her words were true or false. Because he was afraid of being hurt, he ended up hurting the young Lulu. It was really despicable. The Duke saw the conflict in his son's heart, so he let him go in to take care of Lulu. Salowin was first delighted, then he doubted himself again, afraid of causing secondary harm to Lulu. One arrogant boy. No matter how much magical energy you use, you can't possibly hurt her. Hearing these words, Salowin finally smiled with joy. After preparing himself mentally, he pushed open that door. But when he saw that little thing on the bed, he was instantly shocked, speechless. The boy accidentally made his sister cough blood and faint. Only then did he realize how important his sister was to him. He started self-reflecting to the unconscious girl. I was wrong. I'll never bully you again. Please wake up soon. I want to get along well with you too. Just then, system notifications kept popping up. Lulu didn't pay attention, just feeling it was noisy. But when it mentioned visceral fat reduction, the beauty-loving girl instantly perked up. And when she opened her eyes, she saw Salowin by the bed with panda eyes, looking exhausted. Have you been taking care of me all this time? The boy disdainfully explained, it's all because you're too weak. Lulu felt warm and fuzzy inside. She used to think Salowin was a bad guy, but he's actually just a child with a tough exterior and soft heart. I've been alone for a long time, so I really crave companionship, because companionship and support can give me a happy and warm heart. So Salowin, I need you. Will you be my brother? The boy was a bit stunned. Having experienced the feeling of loss, he no longer put up a tough front. You're a frail child, so I'll protect you well from now on, because I'm your brother. As their hands joined together, mission completed. A sound rang out, awarding 3,000 gold coins. Lulu was very delighted. Salowin finally acknowledged her as a family member. Looking at the boy's dark circles about to fall to the ground, Lulu invited him to sleep together. The boy instantly bristled. Why should I sleep with you? Brothers are supposed to comfort their sisters to sleep, you know. Being a brother for the first time, the boy believed it right away. He obediently lay down, following Lulu's instructions. Pat my head. The boy hesitated for a moment, then did as told. Lulu started to push her luck. Now do a front flip, then a back flip, and clap 3 times in the air. Obviously, the boy didn't fall for it. Good night, Salowin. The 2 siblings fell asleep, smiling at each other. Suddenly, the sleeping Lulu found herself in an unfamiliar place. That self-proclaimed angel boy appeared again. Lulu angrily pulled him down quickly. You came at the right time, you big liar. You've caused me so much trouble. The boy looked wronged. Haven't I kept my promise? I gave you a noble birth, a handsome brother and father, and even my abilities. Lulu was stunned for only a second. She immediately saw through his scheme. The angel hurriedly fled, saying he only gives a 10 when he sees a handsome face. Otherwise, it's always 0. Lulu scoffed, saying handsomeness is a perk. If you have a problem with it, just be more handsome yourself. The angel grumbled dissatisfiedly. Wait until I find my true form. You'll definitely. Before he could finish, the dream began to collapse. Oh no, I haven't even started to say the important things, and time's already up. I believe you can do it. Lulu had no time to react before she suddenly woke up from her dream. The bed was covered in flowers. What's going on? The girl and her brother reconciled and fell asleep together. When she woke up, she found the bed covered in flowers, thinking she was still dreaming. Just then, a maid came in, saying these were all sent by her brother Salowin. The girl was touched for only a second. She doubted even more that she was dreaming. After all, Salowin was unlikely to do such a thing. The maid speculated that these flowers were the young master's way of accompanying you in his absence. If we hadn't come in, he would surely have waited until you woke up before leaving. Looking at the flowers in her hand, Lulu felt a warmth in her heart. Meanwhile, in a building of the Duke's mansion, a group of people were having a secret meeting. They marveled at the recent drastic changes in the Duke's mansion and the Duke himself, especially how the Duke would now use words like meal. More importantly, his extreme doting on the little maid. Some speculated it might be because at just 4 years old, she was able to claim property from Marquis Talenka's family. And this was without any inheritance education. It said someone has already applied to assist her. That person is likely Deal himself. Although he seems a bit mentally unstable, it's undeniable that he's a genius. We thought the maid, born without magical energy, wouldn't threaten the inheritance situation. Now it's not so certain. To reduce variables, it seems we need to nip this potential threat in the bud. Surprisingly, the one presiding over this meeting was Ares. At this moment, the oblivious Lulu was busy upgrading her abilities. Unexpectedly, the usable ones increased to 2. Now, she can check the purchased novels at any time. This means she can use previous abilities without spending money. Just as she was delighted about this, a message made her expression change dramatically. Please be prepared for the moment when the world is swallowed by darkness. With Lulu's keen sense from reading countless novels, she guessed there would be a risk of destruction here. The next second, a message deeply shocked her. Your family and loved ones will all fall in the cold north wind. Lulu could hardly imagine this scene. To protect these important people, she decided to improve. When that day comes, she wants to have enough power to fight against fate. So she raised both hands and accepted all the tasks. Now, even if there's no punishment for refusing difficult tasks, she will face them head on. Suddenly, a new task popped up. It was full of simple interactions. Lulu was somewhat touched and decided to bite the demon a little lighter next time they meet. Soon, the Duke's large regular meeting was held as scheduled. The Duke made a dazzling entrance carrying young Lulu. Everyone immediately started discussing, but dare not say anything. Only one retainer presumptively stepped forward, stating that Lulu didn't even have a position, so she wasn't qualified to attend. The Duke was instantly angered upon hearing this. He stared at the man, coldly saying, "Your mouth stinks. Did you not brush your teeth?" The usually fierce Duke, to support his daughter, actually scolded a retainer for not brushing his teeth during the meeting. At these 3 words, the retainer was petrified on the spot. Salowin, meanwhile, was shaking with laughter. Winston consciously thought, how could you not brush your teeth properly? The man was flushed red with embarrassment, while those present whispered among themselves. Usually, young Master Salowin doesn't attend these regular meetings. It's unprecedented that he came today. It seems changes are about to happen within the Duke's household. Soon, the meeting officially began. The Duke announced his plan to establish an advisory team for his daughter. This was undoubtedly met with opposition from others. After all, Lulu was still young, and without magical energy, she was an ordinary child. Deal, as a member of the fan support club, immediately disagreed. How dare you say that about the young lady who is so excellent? Lulu, sitting to the side, found it very strange. Why were the elders all silent? Logically, they should have been the first to stand up in opposition. Could this be a test? To see if she's qualified to have her own advisory team? And this test must be for her to catch the traitor in the Duke's mansion. After all, if there were no insiders in the Duke's mansion, it would be impossible for the butler to carry out the kidnapping so easily here. Moreover, the Duke's mansion couldn't have no supervision over the child support payments. So this proves there are Talenka's moles here. It seems that to pass this silent test, she needs to have her own team. Lulu confidently guessed that this was how things were. Father must believe that even without any explanation, I can discover this test. It's the first time someone has such high expectations of me. So Lulu happily kissed her father on the cheek and completed the task at the same time. The Duke smiled with satisfaction. Only the retainers were left shocked. Soon the meeting ended. Lulu decided to do tasks that could be completed quickly first. That is, to be recognized as a family member by Brother Aries. She happily chased after him, inviting her brother to have afternoon tea together. The boy's expression as he turned his head, however, made her freeze on the spot. The next second, Aries put on an angelic smile again. The speed was so fast that Lulu thought she had seen things. Aries lovingly touched her nose tip, saying that having afternoon tea with his sister was the most important thing. Lulu thought she must have seen wrong, and smiled happily. However, unexpectedly, Salowin came uninvited. Originally, Lulu was afraid they would fight again, so she didn't call Salowin. Now she feared it would be ruined. But having two handsome men together was a super treat. My sister looks very happy, like bread, but sweeter and softer than bread. The cheesy words made Salowin very uncomfortable, while Lulu was immersed in this happiness and couldn't extricate herself. Aries, I hope you don't change your current personality when you grow up. Salowin couldn't help but retort that it would become monstrous. The two little chickens started pecking at each other like this. At this time, Aries asked Lulu why she was interested in the magic stone mining business. Although smiling, his face revealed a carefully hidden murderous intent. You know those magic stones are all empty. Why are you still doing this? The Angel Brothers' favorability was actually negative 666. Lulu, as both sister and author, collapsed. Just now, Aries asked why she was so interested in the mining business when she knew those magic stones were all empty. Lulu had no choice but to directly say it was to complete the task given by the system. So she smiled and explained that because they were empty, she thought about whether they could be turned from waste into treasure. If successful, it could become a money tree. Aries had a look of sudden realization. He smiled and praised her for her courage. Another strong sense of discomfort rushed to her heart. Even though Aries was smiling very gently, it had been like this since their first meeting, including now. He was still taking care of her. Why did she have this feeling? She carefully asked Aries, "You are my family. You're my brother, right?" The boy smiled very gently, saying it was all a matter of course. However, the task completion prompt box still didn't pop up. What was going on? Aries continued to express affirmation. "Why are you suddenly asking me this, my cute sister?" Salowin on the side finally couldn't stand it anymore. He stood up and exposed him. "Your acting is getting better and better. Why don't you take off that disgusting mask now? You actually knew someone had sneaked into the mansion that day, right?" Aries looked very surprised. Then he smiled and said, "When did you become so smart?" Suddenly, the system popped up that the Revenge Magpie task was completed. This meant that Aries was involved in the kidnapping incident. It turned out that Aries would always lay a circle of magical energy around the Duke's mansion. It was impossible not to sense an intruder. Lulu looked at Salowin, standing in front of her, feeling very emotional. The system suddenly popped up a prompt. "You are no longer alone now." So Salowin was really protecting her. but she still wanted to ask clearly. So, Aries, you knew I would be kidnapped all along. The exposed boy stopped pretending. A favorability maintenance 666 sign suddenly appeared above his head. I originally wanted to play the good brother game a bit longer. Now it's ruined. Lulu saw the negative 666 instantly break down. Regardless of whether her identity would be exposed, she kept voicing the author's thoughts. How could you do this? I gave you my body and heart. I raised you with such effort. Both of them looked bewildered. Lulu kept asking what negative 666 meant. Am I a demon? Do you hate me that much? You were the one who seduced me first. You country-toppling, city-ruining demon. The angel brother's favorability towards her was actually negative 666. As a fan club member, Lulu lost it completely. She kept outputting insults that sounded nice one after another. You country-toppling, city-ruining demon. You nation-wrecking, people-harming vixen. You peerless beauty of both talent and looks. Salomon couldn't bear to listen anymore. He quickly reminded his silly sister that these words weren't insults at all. Lulu reluctantly questioned, "So you've hated me from the beginning?" After getting an affirmative answer, she continued to ask, "What did I do wrong? Is it because I was born without rapport? Or do you think I'm not father's biological daughter?" At this point, Lulu was about to cry from sadness. But Aries asked back, "What are you talking about? It's precisely because you are of Paladon's bloodline that I dislike you. Because siblings are competitors. In the end, only one person can become the family head." Lulu was a bit confused for a moment. So, it was because Aries acknowledged her as a family member that he'd dislike her like this. He didn't think of her as a flawed product without magical energy like others did, but as a competitor standing on the same starting line. She quickly rushed forward, asking, "What if I say I'm not interested in the position of family head at all? Would you put aside your hostility towards me and accept me?" Aries, who had been exposed, was instantly annoyed. But Lulu's next words made him stay in place. "If I say that, you'd be unhappy, right? A competitor voluntarily giving up actually makes you very upset, right? Do you know why? Because you've already started to like me. So prepare yourself, because I will accept this competition." Lulu planned to leave coolly like this. However, the next second she activated her ability again and fell to the ground coughing blood. Salomon was terrified, and in the last second before fainting, Lulu seemed to see Aries' favorability constantly changing. The anxious Salomon angrily blamed Aries. Normally, Aries would definitely smile and say some sarcastic words. But today he not only remained silent, but also showed an expression never seen before. After who knows how long, Lulu finally woke up from her sleep. As soon as she opened her eyes, she saw Aries by the bed. The favorability above his head had risen slightly. She sat up abruptly. Aries hurriedly asked why she was getting up when she had just coughed up blood. Then he immediately pushed her back onto the bed. "Aries, are you angry? What are you going to do?" "I'm going to find the traitors who abused me together and make them pay the price they deserve." This was very similar to Aries. So she proposed a temporary alliance. Lulu's mischievous expression made him a bit embarrassed, and the favorability was also fluctuating sharply up and down. It gave the impression of forcing himself to dislike Lulu. However, in the end, it returned to the annoying 666, but he wouldn't be able to hold out for many days. When his brother's favorability towards him increased, he would cough up blood and faint. This enraged the daughter-doting maniac who didn't know the truth. He wanted to kill all the doctors in the Duke's mansion on the spot. Even though the doctors said the young lady was fine and was actually expelling impurities from her body, he still refused to believe it. Lulu helplessly rolled up her sleeve and began to show her slightly bulging biceps. "Look, before I fainted, my hands and feet were cold, but now they've become very warm." The Duke immediately held his daughter's hand to check. It was indeed, as she said. Who would have thought that coughing up blood was actually detoxification? "Don't make me worry too much." Seeing her father's haggard appearance, Lulu began to use cheesy pickup lines. "Dad, do you know what I want to drink the most right now?" The old father, upon hearing this, immediately wanted to go buy it for his precious daughter. Unexpectedly, Lulu said, "What I want most is to take care of you." Everyone was stunned, but the next second, they started to stir. They saw the Duke take out a thick book, which even required magical energy to open. Lulu thought this must be the family's secret recipe, but it turned out to be Lulu's growth diary. It recorded everything Lulu had said to him. Finally, the crisis was safely resolved. Although embarrassing, it saved the lives of the doctors. And through today's task, Lulu received an extra reward of an Hermes dress. She was so excited she almost cried out. She excitedly tapped on it. After a burst of intense light, a small bird flew out. It was said to be able to send messages anywhere, including the underworld. Lulu, who had been excited for nothing, shed bitter tears. Now the Hermes was unhappy. You found out I'm not a branded bag, and showed a disappointed expression. I saw it all. I haven't even acknowledged you as my master yet. Lulu didn't say much. She just pushed the cookie in front of her towards it. The little bird excitedly shouted, "You think I can be bought with something like this?" But it was just putting on a tough act. After just one taste, it gladly accepted and even praised her as a good person. Lulu brought up the current task window. She found that there was only one task available now, to make Aries acknowledge that he is a member of the family. But when she recalled what her brother said, that siblings are competitors since only one person can become the family head in the end, she suddenly felt a strange sensation. The girl found it very odd. From their very first meeting, her brother had viewed him as a competitor for the position of family head, meaning his status as a family member was acknowledged. So why hadn't the task been completed yet? The only possibility was that in Aries' heart, he only saw him as an object that must be eliminated. In his planned future, there was no place for him at all. Thinking of this, Lulu couldn't help but poke Hermes, but she noticed its dejection. She quickly comforted it. "After we meet 3 more times, I'll let you call me by my nickname." The girl realized that in Aries' world, there was no concept of family at all. This was a sad thing. Just then, Salwin arrived. Lulu quickly ran towards him, asking if having a family was a good thing. "Right? Isn't it great?" The boy's ears instantly turned red, and he shyly turned his head away. After being hit on the mark, he'd Sunder ly, stomped his feet. Suddenly, he asked very curiously, "I heard you really like to drink something. What exactly is it?" Everyone was discussing it enthusiastically, but no matter how I asked, they wouldn't tell me. Lulu instantly broke into an embarrassed cold sweat. She didn't want to bring up such an embarrassing thing again. But when Salwin looked sad because of this, she softened her heart. Embarrassing or not, she decided to go all out today. So she demonstrated what cheesy pickup lines were. Salwin was instantly struck by Cupid's arrow. Damn it, this is too cute. Great, another one has gone crazy." At this moment, Aries recalled his last conversation with Lulu. His heart suddenly became very conflicted. Could it be that, as the little one said, he was slowly starting to like her? As he was thinking, he had already arrived at Lulu's room. The girl happily greeted him. After Aries sat down, she immediately asked a question. "So who is the insider colluding with Talenka? It seems you're very sure I've found out who it is. Why is that?" Lulu instinctively said from her heart, "Because you're very smart." Aries clearly hadn't expected this kind of reason. The favorability meter above began to spin rapidly. The girl began her first collaboration with her brother to catch the thief. Just by praising him as smart, she made her brother secretly pleased, raising his favorability by over 200 points. Although he was happy inside, he didn't want to alert the enemy. She even asked her brother for the work logs. Aries knew the reason, but still cunningly asked her to explain. Lulu didn't expose this either. Every quarter, the Duke's mansion would provide a large sum for child support. So, they must have received reports on its proper use, right? Indeed, Aries had already thought of this. After comparing the details, he found no flaws in the reports. It seemed the traitor wasn't among this group of staff. Then I want the list of auditors for the past 3 years. They must have investigated Talenka's mansion, right? After getting an affirmative answer, Lulu's eyes instantly welled up with tears. She once thought she had been abandoned, praying for someone from the Duke's mansion to appear. She didn't need to be taken back. Just knowing she wasn't abandoned was enough. It turned out they really had sent auditors. You were deceived by these people. Aries immediately frowned. Was it that bastard who told you nonsense about being abandoned? No one can abandon you. Only I can. At this moment, Aries' favorability reached 444. Lulu was instantly captivated by this domineering CEO-like declaration. 444 must mean you love me to death. It seems you really like me a lot. Although Lulu's words confused the boy, her bright smile still made his ears turn red. At this moment, Lulu had already guessed that Talenka had bribed the auditors, and he had a good excuse. That she wasn't the Duke's biological daughter, but born from the Duchess's affair. Even if she were biological, the Duke wouldn't like a flawed product without magical energy. Aries finally understood why Lulu had asked that question earlier. So he didn't say more and directly handed over the list of auditors. They hadn't changed for 3 consecutive years, so it's likely even their superiors were moles. Sure enough, the task completion text box popped up, but Lulu didn't want to alert the enemy, as she still needed to find their backer. To catch the big fish, you need bait. Suddenly, Aries smiled and asked, "Why don't you suspect me? I might be pretending to help, trying to clear my name." However, Lulu answered firmly, "That's not your style of doing things." Aries clearly hadn't expected this. He smiled helplessly and said, "You really are unpredictable." The girl confidently replied on the spot, "After all, my charm is like an onion. No matter how much you peel, you can't finish it. Speaking of my sister, I heard you really like to drink something. I think it's called Care for You." Damn it, this joke just won't go away. Aries smiled like an angel. "So which one do you want to care for?" This alluring smile made Lulu inwardly shout, "What a country-toppling, city-ruining cunning fox." The girl completed the task and gained a special ability from a novel. She could automatically collect others' income tax, which means tracking funds. Although not as convenient as the Emperor's Eye, it was still very useful. However, it could only be used face-to-face. The person behind it was probably at the elder level. The earliest they could meet would be at the next meeting. Lulu asked Aries when she could meet important family members. That's when she learned about the upcoming New Year's banquet, which would be a good opportunity. "Are you looking forward to it?" "Of course. The banquet hall will surely be beautifully decorated, right? Everyone will be dressed up, elegantly greeting each other." "What else are you looking forward to, my sister?" Behind the elegance is the undercurrent of social power struggles. Another battlefield, a cruel world where daggers are hidden on the tip of the tongue, attacking each other. This is the politics of the social world. Lulu's age-inappropriate remarks and constantly changing expressions surprised Aries. Fortunately, the girl quickly returned to her normal childlike demeanor. "There will definitely be all kinds of delicious food at the banquet, right? Will there be a chocolate fountain?" Aries affectionately stroked her face. He said that although they didn't have one before, if his sister wanted it so much, he would have it prepared. Lulu happily hugged him, but was met with Aries' cold and serious expression. However, the girl was already used to it. "Will all the family retainers attend?" The attendance rate will be higher than the monthly meetings. Even retired elders will come. Lulu was overjoyed. Now she could investigate their illegal income one by one. Aries was very confused. It's not like meeting them will reveal who the traitor's backer is. Why do you want to see them? Lulu knew she couldn't hide it anymore. So she truthfully explained, "Actually, I can read minds." Aries naturally found it absurd, but Lulu was dead serious. Children's eyes are the eyes of truth. They can see all evil things. Aries became interested upon hearing this. He suddenly leaned his head close. "Then look at me. Am I a good person or an evil person?" Lulu's heart suddenly raced. "You're a bad person. You're harmful to my heart, making it beat nonstop. We truly are siblings. We're alike in this aspect." So Aries meant that Lulu was the same for him. However, the girl didn't realize it. Soon, the day of a New Year's banquet arrived. Lulu was dressed up very cutely. This was also her first New Year since returning to her family's embrace and knowing her name and age. What happened today? At the crucial moment, her intelligence seemed to have left home again. Today was the day of a New Year's banquet. Aries and Salawin were fighting over their sister on the spot. The two engaged in a war of words, neither backing down. Suddenly, the father and 2 sons simultaneously looked to one side, mesmerized. It turned out that Lulu, dressed very cutely, had come down. Salawin almost lost control, letting his magic power spread. But Lulu quickly stopped him. "If you break the wall again, I'll dislike you." Hearing this, Salawin immediately behaved. Aries seized the opportunity and offered a kiss. "My sister is so cute today. May I escort you to the banquet?" The 2 brothers started fighting over this question again. Seeing this, the Duke directly picked up his daughter. "What a pointless struggle. Of course, my daughter likes me the most." This was exactly like the rumored battle between a daughter-doting father and sister-obsessed brothers. Lulu happily went to check Aries' affection towards her. But not only was it not full, it was actually negative 160. This was too much. "But sister and I have important things to do today. This is a secret just between the 2 of us. Right, Lulu?" Knowing it would be better to go with Aries for the task, she whispered in Aries' ear, "Dream on. Keep trying. I still haven't forgiven you." She walked a few steps forward alone, then turned back and invited, "I want to enter with all three of you." The two brothers looked dissatisfied with each other. Lulu immediately stated, "If you don't want to, then I'll go with Anna and the others." The two immediately changed their faces. A family should be together. "So happy. Since sister wants to be with us, we can't refuse." The family of four thus set off towards the banquet hall. Afterwards, Aries quietly observed everyone's movements from the side. The Duke and the elders went to the inner room to discuss matters. Salomon accompanied Lulu nearby to protect her, until he couldn't stand the social interactions and left. The important retainers should also come out of the inner room soon. That means the traitor's backer would soon surface. Exchanging glances with Lulu from afar, before finding evidence, they needed to act carefully. Aries was like a behind-the-scenes mastermind, confident in his plan. Although it wasn't certain whether Lulu could really see people's good or bad nature at a glance. What was certain was that his sister was very clever. As discussed earlier, conducting a secret investigation should be more than enough. However, in the next second, Lulu directly pointed at the hand of an elder, shouting loudly that this old grandfather was very bad, a tax-evading villain. What was going on? Had his sister's intelligence left home? The girl and her second brother were planning to catch the mastermind at the New Year's banquet. But unexpectedly, the punishment took effect again. Her intelligence suddenly dropped to that of a 5-year-old. The child's eyes lit up at the sight of the chocolate fountain. "Does the maid like chocolate?" Because Aries prepared this for me. It seems a young lady really likes young Master Aries. "Of course I do." Her innocent and adorable appearance melted everyone's hearts. They unconsciously started playing with her. Just then, the elders came out from the inner room to greet her. Lulu quickly went forward and respectfully introduced herself. One person praised her cuteness, while another complained about her noisiness. The difference in attitudes was very obvious. "Grandpas, are you people of high status?" After receiving an affirmative answer, Lulu tried hard to remember what to do after meeting people of high status. That's right, find the bad guys. So she prepared to activate her ability to catch the crystal bomb. However, this ability could only be used 5 times. So who should she use it on? That harsh grandfather seemed like a bad person, but if it was that simple, it would be too easy. So she chose the kind-looking white-haired grandfather, Josenhain. Indeed, there was over 50 million in unreported illegal income. The system began frantically prompting. Seeing that Lulu didn't seem to understand, it switched to a simple conclusion. That is, this guy's a bad person. Lulu instantly happily pointed at the old grandfather and shouted, "You're a bad guy. A tax-evading bad guy." Josenhain quickly changed the subject, jokingly saying that Lulu thought he had stolen her candy. But Lulu insisted it was money, that he had taken bribes. The man instantly grabbed her hand, his face showing a fierce look. "If you continue like this, I won't just laugh it off. If you're falsely accusing the head of the nursing home, what do you plan to make amends?" Lulu was immediately frightened to tears. She cried out, "Aries, this bad guy hurt me." Aries was completely confused. He didn't understand why Lulu was making such a scene when they had agreed to investigate secretly. But he still couldn't help but walk forward. Lulu immediately rushed over, hugging Aries' leg and saying, "My brother is super handsome, super awesome, and super smart. Now you're all doomed." The elder shamelessly said to Aries, "Surely you won't hold me responsible because of a child's tantrum. Otherwise, I can only assume you're attacking the Council of Elders." Aries knew that pursuing this without any evidence would be insane. Not only would it be unhelpful, but it would also backfire. He had to retreat quickly, but seeing his sister looking so pitiful and her eyes full of absolute trust, Aries' heart suddenly softened. His favorability finally returned to positive. So he made a decision very unlike himself to stand up for his sister. Without evidence, it was certainly impossible to convict the Count. The elder thought he was safe now. But unexpectedly, Aries said, "But my sister is crying." Her disliked cunning brother was finally won over. The favorability directly skyrocketed off the charts. Just now, Aries unusually defended his sister in public. Everyone was discussing, does this mean Count Josenhain will be expelled from the family? Is this a declaration of war against the Council of Elders? The Count also tried to control the direction of public opinion. This made other elders more dissatisfied. At least they should follow proper procedures. Treating the Council of Elders so casually was very disrespectful. However, this didn't stump Aries. Count Josenhain is just the head of the Council of Elders. Questioning him doesn't mean implicating the entire council. Or is the whole council the Count's private property? Instantly, everyone fell silent. Only Count Candor actively tried to curry favor. Didn't the young master say he only suspects Count Josenhain? I've never taken money with him. Have you? This was clearly a warning. Since he had spoken up, they couldn't touch the council anymore. Now, Josenhain's plan was foiled, but he was certain Aries had no evidence. Otherwise, he would have presented it already. Just then, the Duke came out from the inner room. Josenhain was about to complain, but Lulu beat him to it and accused first. Dad, this bad grandpa hurt me. The Count was inwardly mocking Lulu's clumsy tactics, but unexpectedly, the Duke looked at him with murderous intent. Suzo reminded him that it was the young lady who first accused the Count of taking bribes, but the Duke unconditionally believed the Queen. At this, Lulu immediately started pointing fingers. I saw these people in my uncle's house. It's those two uncles. I even overheard their conversation with my uncle. They asked how things were being handled. They also said with Count Josenhain's backing, there was nothing to worry about. The Count still wanted to struggle. After all, it's impossible to convict based on one-sided words. Are you saying my daughter intentionally framed you the first time she met you? Why would she do that? Under the powerful pressure, the man slipped up. The young lady showed great ambition for business. So she must want to make an example of me by expelling me. The Duke laughed at this clumsy excuse. You're saying she doesn't want to win over you, the head of the Council of Elders, but instead wants to offend you? This method seems too reckless. Lulu, who was treated like a fool, also angrily jumped out. She even wanted to show him what real framing was. Seeing everyone staring at her, she immediately blushed with embarrassment. Lulu is kind. She's an angel without wings. It's all because this grandpa is too bad. The father and son just laughed at him like this. Lulu was now sweating profusely. Fortunately, when Dad came just now, he had lifted the punishment status. Otherwise, it would have been even more embarrassing. I am sorry, Ares. I didn't mean to, but I'm really happy that you stood up for me. Only then did Aries realize that he should have been angry at her for ruining the plan. But now, looking at her sincere and bright smile, he actually felt that all this was thanks to her. Aries remembered what his father had said before, that his sister was an enemy who could make him happy. He suddenly felt it made a lot of sense. For the first time, he showed a genuine smile. Instantly, the favorability above his head started rolling frantically. The system announced, unable to determine favorability. Tester overload warning. Warning, about to explode. Her disliked, cunning brother suddenly had a favorability explosion. Lulu was stunned on the spot. What kind of terrifying attack was this? However, when the countdown ended, the system only prompted that the task was completed. Aries also showed an expression of sudden realization. So this is what it feels like to have family. At this moment, Lulu's influence on Aries reached its maximum. Because he was one of the important characters, she could even directly upgrade his traits. Lulu's fist clenched. How dare the system joke around like this? Next time they meet, she'll definitely give the demon a hard punch. At this moment, Salwin arrived. He, who disliked parties, came specifically to pick up his sister. Did you have fun, Cotton Candy? Suddenly, they both noticed the scratches on their sister's hand. Salwin, not knowing the truth, immediately became angry. What's this? Who did this? Salwin had a murderous look. He clearly wanted to swallow the culprit alive. Lulu knew this would cause big trouble, so she started acting coy with Salwin. Salwin, hug me. I was so sad without you. You think this trick works on me? Well, it actually did work. Salwin had a cold face when his back was to Lulu. He had already decided in his heart to find out who had hurt his sister. But it's such a pity. There's still so much left in the chocolate fountain. Hearing his daughter's words, the Duke immediately gathered around. What do you want to eat? Dad will make it for you. I want to eat banana. After saying this, she walked towards a chocolate fountain, shocking everyone. The Duke, without a second word, started making it himself. This stunned everyone except Lulu. Sally asked, then what do you like? He actually wasn't interested in these things. But if he had to choose, it would definitely be soft cotton candy like Lulu. Dad, Salwin likes cotton candy. Let's make him a rabbit-shaped cotton candy. Salwin was about to refuse, but he wasn't given the chance. The next victim was Aries, but the boy firmly expressed his disinterest. Salwin Heroine immediately fanned the flames from the side. This guy is so mean. It seems he doesn't want what you're giving. That means he doesn't like you. Lulu immediately looked like she was about to cry. Aries had no choice but to reluctantly agree. The girl immediately arranged a lamb-shaped cotton candy. Is it because I have curly hair? No, it's because you look docile like a lamb, but actually have a bad temper. Even with such teasing, Aries wasn't annoyed at all. Then I'll make dads. It's a little kitty. The Duke was stunned, not understanding how his image could be like this. Everyone else burst into laughter. The harmonious scene was hard to imagine. Lulu was extremely happy. With dad and brothers here, I'm really too happy. I believe every day in the future will be this happy. However, the next second, she was transported back into the dream. The demon suddenly appeared beside her. Smiling, he said, "We meet again. How about it? I'm handsome when I grow up, right?" After a long 50 episodes, we finally catch a whiff of the male lead. Just now, the angel who was originally a child suddenly grew up. Lulu was momentarily stunned, staring at him. Seeing this, the angel cheekily covered himself, as if he had encountered some big pervert. This angered Lulu, who immediately gave him a big slap. Still not satisfied, she followed up with a series of punches. "You wet behind the ears, brat. What nonsense are you spouting?" The angel pitifully covered his head and complained, "You're so mean. I'm a kind angel." However, Lulu's words made him want to spit blood. "How strange. You don't look pitiful at all. In fact, you look quite detestable. So why did you call me here? Is danger approaching?" "What danger? Can't you just say something is going to attack humans?" "If you can't say that, then what can you say?" Lulu was almost speechless. The angel then slowly said, "The greater your influence becomes, the looser the causal laws binding me will be. At that time, I can tell you more information." The words causal laws seemed to suddenly enlighten Lulu. Based on her years of experience, she must be the female lead in a fantasy novel. "I've seen through your pattern. Actually, the moment I crossed over here, I became the protagonist." "So what's the protagonist's mission?" "Of course, it's to save the world." The angel was stunned. Although the process was a bit off, the result seemed to be correct. It turned out the angel came today to warn her that a young man possessed a very powerful and dangerous force. According to the plot, they were about to meet soon. When that day comes, no matter what happens, she must ignore him. Lulu didn't listen at all. She even wanted to meet this cutie right away. Before she could ask for more details, the dream collapsed again. Lulu was completely frustrated. Another day full of doubts. She began to check the messages from this period. Mission completed. Obtained 10,000 gold coin lottery tickets. Then thousands of messages popped up. Now, the voices opposing her establishment of an advisory team had disappeared. Moreover, except for the eldest brother who only thought about killing, she had gained the approval of all direct relatives. A new mission popped up to gain the approval of a director, as well as a smart sidekick. Lulu immediately thought of Deer. Everyone said he was very capable, but because he blindly worshipped Lulu, he seemed a bit abnormal. Therefore, Lulu directly kicked him off the candidate list. Then she took out the book from the drawer and started upgrading her characteristics. There were quite a few new clauses. The last one was the ability to remove carried items using gold coins. This instantly excited Lulu. She decided to remove the ability to spit blood regardless of the occasion. No matter how many gold coins it would cost, it was worth it. However, a prompt popped up saying that passive abilities couldn't be removed. Damn it, how is this any different from a punishment? Just then, the butler arrived. He said the Duke's father wanted to see her about something. However, when she arrived in front of a room, her expression suddenly changed. Is it really okay for Dad to do this? Could this be what a gang boss looks like when he becomes a daughter-con? A 5-year-old girl actually having her own office, and even the private study that only the family head could use. This was a place that tradition and rules strictly forbade casual entry. But the Duke insisted on doing this. Lulu could hardly believe it. Is this how a gang boss spoils his daughter? It wasn't until the advisor said it was a unanimous decision of the family retainers that Lulu finally felt at ease. Soon the girl sat down in the specially customized desk and chair. The bright office put her in a great mood. Just then, the non-mainstream team of advisors arrived. They were Bika, Shoji, and Holby. Lastly, there was the chief advisor, Deer. Lulu's face darkened. How did he manage to sneak in here? Lulu directly ignored the man. She greeted the other three. I'll be counting on everyone from now on. With that, she got straight to the point. As you all know, I want to do business with magic stones. The first step now is to find new value for empty magic stones. So what work has everyone prepared? The three were instantly stumped by the question. Though young, Lulu had a powerful presence. They also knew that the young lady didn't want people who just followed orders, but those who could think independently and provide help. Bika finally understood why the higher-ups sent the second group. After all, he was the first person to become a Viscount based on his abilities. People said he was mentally unstable, but that was probably just jealousy of his talents. Shoji frankly admitted he wasn't prepared yet. If given a little more time, he would make thorough preparations. Lulu was quite satisfied with his honesty, but Deer was furious. You're not qualified to be advisors like this. If you're going to advise the perfect and intelligent young lady, you should be fully prepared. Indeed, I'm the only true servant of the young lady. The three were stunned. The higher-ups were right about him being mentally unstable. However, in the next second, Deer handed over the prepared world-class mountain resources data. This instantly amazed Lulu. How could this perverted guy be so capable? So she began to examine everything from magic stone samples to an overview of the mine data, and even secondary processing methods. Deer had prepared everything in advance. Finally, Lulu tried to challenge him by asking for an unrelated afternoon tea. Deer calmly produced her favorite kind. How could someone have such perfect abilities? It was like someone offering a pillow just as she was about to doze off. What did it matter if he was a bit abnormal? Very well, you've passed. With that, Lulu accepted this group of ninja turtle combination. Suddenly, Deer's eyes lit up. Then please share that with me too. The oath you only share with his lordship. Lulu was extremely embarrassed and immediately asked the other three to leave. They all speculated about what important oath it could be. They were determined to gain recognition someday too. A world where only Lulu was hurt was achieved. However, Deer suddenly became serious and said, "Besides this, I have one more request." At this time, her two brothers had already arrived outside the door. They were competing for their sister's affection. The Duke suddenly appeared, stating that his daughter loved Dad the most. However, the next second, Lulu's office door suddenly opened. The father and two sons were so shocked they couldn't speak. The man was willing to go through fire and water for the girl, but he only wanted a painting. Although it was painted quite abstractly, he was still overjoyed. He vowed to dedicate everything to it. However, when he happily walked out the door, he encountered the crazed father and sons. Before he could react, he was surrounded. It looked like they were about to torture him. Meanwhile, Lulu inside was unaware of what was happening outside. She was just holding an empty magic stone, deep in thought. This business, which even a passing dog would know was doomed to fail, how could it be made valuable? At times like this, she definitely needed to use her cheat ability. You can ask the author to personally break the logic. Female protagonist, please lend me your powerful financial luck. With a system sound, the ability was successfully granted. Lulu eagerly designated the magic stone in her hand. Instantly, the magic stone began to glow, and Lulu saw a path paved with money. It turned out that the magic stones weren't without magic. The magic just hadn't been awakened yet. Moreover, the purity of the magic inside was actually many times higher. This was the ability of the female protagonist in novels to break logic. The little devil in Lulu's heart began to dance. Of course, this kind of information couldn't be shared with others. Keeping it all to herself was the right thing to do. Since everyone says the magic stones have no value, how can we let them know that they're actually worth more than their price? Lulu quickly began to take action. She instructed Deer to buy up all the abandoned mines. Deer immediately had an idea. After all, mines are property and require taxes. So, some people would even give away abandoned mines for free. Lulu suddenly had an epiphany. But uncle, what happened to you? You were fine just an hour ago. Deer looked visibly haggard. It was undoubtedly the work of the Duke and his two sons. But what troubles me is that buying mines on a large scale will certainly attract attention. How can we cover this up? Deer immediately proposed a solution. We just need to spread rumors, saying it's a gift for the young masters to train their magic. Lulu strongly agreed with this. But don't use the family's funds to buy them. The money we got from Uncle should be enough. Deer obediently accepted the task without a single question. Uncle, why don't you ask me anything? Because I am your loyal right-hand man, so I don't need to question your orders. Once I understand your thoughts, I can better assist you and make more professional judgments. Lulu was touched by these words for 0.1 seconds. Deer immediately returned to his annoying self and was promptly kicked out. At this time, Lulu thought of another person she could extort money from. It was the head of the Council of Elders from last time. So she went to the dungeon alone. She began to collect taxes from a man. Since there was no ready currency, food was used instead. This is known as the legendary seal tax. Although Lulu had no right to collect taxes in reality, these things could still be directly transferred to her hands. The system explained that this was behavior recognized by the Alantwal Empire. Lulu's little head froze for a second. She suddenly remembered the plot from the novel, The True Tyrant. She broke down, realizing this wasn't taxation at all, but blatant theft. The girl used the ability from the novel to collect taxes from a man, not realizing it was actually an act of theft. She was so angry she was about to curse. But come to think of it, this old man had embezzled quite a lot. The list of collected food items was endless. Suddenly, Daphne's necklace at the top caught her attention. Could this be the legendary elf, Daphne? This is the kind of item that should appear in a fantasy novel. So she eagerly reached out to collect it. The next second, a necklace appeared out of thin air. Lulu curiously opened the box. The portrait inside the pendant instantly piqued her interest. Meanwhile, inside the Council of Elders, everyone was heatedly discussing Johansson's bribery case. Both sides were sticking to their own words. And now, Count Caldo had become the only person with real power. At this moment, he saw Lulu by the window. He immediately frowned. He quickly drew the curtains. But when he saw the letter Lulu had sent, he hurriedly came looking for her. He was clearly displeased. Although I don't know where you heard something that made you give me this. You got the wrong person. I would never be anyone's lackey. I hope you can stop here. Lulu suddenly looked very confused. She asked back, "Do you really want to stop here?" As she spoke, she took out that necklace. It clearly showed the young count. Caldo looked incredulous. He asked where she got it from. Lulu just smirked. This made the man think she was trying to threaten him. But unexpectedly, Lulu just said softly, "Carry me." Caldo was instantly dumbfounded. By the time he came to his senses, they were already in Lulu's room. Now, let's get to the point. Tell me, that sister is your lover, right? Lulu's eyes sparkled. She had clearly entered gossip mode. After getting an affirmative answer, she jumped up excitedly. "Tell me about your love story. How did you meet? Surely it wasn't a cliche scene where you were running with bread in your mouth and suddenly bumped into each other." Caldo really didn't understand what the girl was trying to do. But he answered honestly, "We met at a party." Lulu had an "I knew it" look. Romance novels love parties the most. So she continued to ask eagerly. And then? Caldo became more and more confused. What did this strange child want to do? But his long-buried memories were now vividly resurfacing. The girl unexpectedly discovered that a necklace was actually connected to a horrific human experiment. Count Caldo began to tell the story of himself and his wife. At a dinner party at a noble's house, he went out for some air and was accidentally hit on the head by a high-heeled boot. The culprit was just sitting on the ground, ordering him around. As a gentleman's upbringing, Caldo symbolically asked if she needed help. Unexpectedly, the girl was not at all polite. Caldo didn't refuse either. He directly picked her up in his arms. The whole time, he had a keep-away look. Even when Daphne apologized to him, he didn't say a word more. But fate is so wonderful. Caldo, who never got close to women, fell in love just like that. Lulu is absolutely satisfied. This is the destiny that should be in romance novels. "I didn't expect you to be so romantic, old grandpa." Caldo remembered that Daphne had said such things too. His expression unconsciously softened. "Maybe I wasn't romantic enough. Otherwise, she wouldn't have left me." Not long after the wedding, Caldo received that blood-stained wedding ring, along with news that his wife had eloped with a secret lover and died in a monster attack. Lulu tilted her head and refuted. That sister didn't die from a monster attack. The man's aura instantly turned cold. "If you're trying to trick me with this kind of thing, I will never forgive you, even if you're from the Elliton family." Lulu sighed helplessly. "I'm a kind child, not the kind of bad kid who would trample on others' precious memories." Caldo felt that the child before him was extraordinary, not an easy opponent to deal with. She also seemed genuinely not bad. At this moment, Lulu took out a document. The man opened it skeptically, but the words on it were shocking. Kidnapping, human experiments, and death. So Daphne didn't elope with someone else, but suffered this inhuman treatment. "You must be very curious. Who kidnapped your sister and sent you false information? Do you want me to help you get revenge?" The man could hardly believe it, but strong hatred made him insist on tearing apart that evil person himself. "You just need to tell me who that guy is. I haven't been able to find evidence yet, so you can only believe what I say." "Can you do that?" Caldo believed that with this report, he could find the real culprit. He thought relying on a 4 or 5-year-old child was simply a fantasy, but his mouth still said uncontrollably, "I'm willing to believe you." That necklace, I stole it from Count Johansson. I also brought out the experiment report while I was at it. So, is it because of Sister Daphne that you've never married? That's right, because she made me hate love. Actually, it was because for so long, the only wife in his heart was Daphne. And because of this, he never even adopted children. However, in the next moment, Lulu dropped a bombshell. What if Sister had a child in her belly? Caldo suddenly felt a wave of nausea inside. Since Daphne died from human experiments, it meant the child in her belly was also gone. However, in the next second, Lulu held his hand, saying that the child was still alive. "Grandpa, do you want to meet that child?" Caldo widened his eyes, staring at Lulu. He said, "What exactly do you want from me?" The girl's inexplicable help made the Earl suspicious. What did you want to get from him? Lulu directly stated that she wanted many things, but even if no conditions were met, she would still help him meet his son. This confused Caldo. "May I ask why you're doing this?" Lulu looked serious, because letting parents see their children is a natural thing. "I once left my father and lived with my uncle, so I know how sad it is to be alone and helpless. So I can't stop you from reuniting just because you don't agree to my conditions." The girl smiled sincerely. This made Caldo feel very guilty. It turned out he was the real bad person. Just as Caldo was about to leave, Lulu hesitantly called out to him. That child was treated as an experiment subject while still in the womb, so his mind might be a bit abnormal. Can you accept him even like this? Caldo fell silent. In his heart, he wondered how miserable the child must be for Lulu to ask such a question. At this moment, he completely let go. "Don't worry, I'm not such a bad guy either." Relaxed, Lulu said to the window, "I told you, your father definitely wants to see you." The boy was still very insecure. He felt that when his father saw him, he wouldn't think that way anymore. "Don't you find me disgusting?" Lulu had never thought that way. If being different from others is called disgusting, then what about the Paratone ducal family? Probably many people find the Paratone children disgusting because they're too mature. The boy immediately refuted. "It's natural for you to be so outstanding. After all, the Paratone blood is very special." "Then in that case, aren't you special too? Now you need to think for yourself and make a decision. Maybe this is difficult, but as you do it, you'll stop caring about what others say." At this, the boy finally decided to meet his father. Soon, the Earl received a letter from Lulu. The moment he saw the contents of the letter, the man finally smiled. He very naturally threw some to Lulu's little bird. But the next second, the bird showed its disdain. Although he couldn't understand, he could tell it was cursing very rudely. "You received a handsome snake painting from the court lady. Oh, I'm so envious of you." The Duke immediately refuted. "This is clearly 2 golden swords. This represents love," clearly showing his son's determination to meet him. The next day, the Earl dressed very formally. Lulu pulled him to a pavilion outside, just thinking that his son was behind the pillar. His heart couldn't help but beat wildly. However, when he approached, he found the pavilion empty. Had he been tricked? The next second, from behind came a timid father from a boy. The Earl turned around and saw a child who looked exactly like his love, Daphne. The 5-year-old little court lady gained another loyal fan. Just now, Lulu had helped Earl Caldo find his biological son. The man confirmed his identity at first glance. After all, he looked exactly like his wife. Strangely, after so many years, the boy's appearance was still so childish. Seeing his father not speaking, the boy hurriedly apologized. "I am sorry, Earl. I suddenly called you father. I must have scared you." However, the imagined disgust didn't happen. "I am indeed surprised. I have such a handsome son. I'm sorry, I not only failed to protect your mother, but also failed to protect you. I hope you can forgive me, this useless father." Actually, the reason Daphne became an experimental subject was simple. She wasn't human. When she became pregnant with Earl Caldo's child, she was always worried about her identity being exposed. This gave Josenhain an opportunity. However, it wasn't shown in the report, so Caldo still doesn't know the truth. The person who erased that part of the report was his son. "Don't you find me disgusting? Always maintaining such a young appearance." Caldo hadn't thought that way at all. Instead, he felt he could watch him grow up from now on. "I'm really grateful you gave me this chance to be by your side from now on. From this day on, Caldo vowed to dedicate the rest of his life to Lulu. Because of his noble status, he was a member of the Central Brain Trust supporting the Duke's domain. So Lulu exceeded the system's mission. He didn't refuse and agreed on the spot. First, I hope you can resolve an issue. Now that my brother has returned, I don't know how to explain his background, so I'll leave the rest to you. Caldo naturally wouldn't refuse this task. However, at this moment, Caldo brought up the loyalty oath with the special ribbon. Lulu really didn't want to repeat that awkward ceremony, but clearly, it wasn't up to her. Soon, Lulu turned those useless magic stones into magic stones with high-purity magic power. Normal magic stone transactions would go through the palace and had to be sold according to a certain ratio. The palace would even take a portion. The cunning Lulu immediately thought of a way to deal with it. That was to rename these extraordinary magic stones as black gold. She wouldn't allow her profits to be shared. She was overjoyed, believing that soon she could become the youngest and richest person in this empire. However, she overlooked a very important point. That is, these originally empty magic stones were claimed by the mind to be gifts for her brothers to train their magic. So the father and two sons had already started fighting over them. This was troublesome. How should she deal with 3 jealous men? The girl attended an underground auction for the first time. She unexpectedly spent 10 billion to buy a little boy. Just now, Lulu accidentally overheard Deer voluntarily telling the Duke about the auction, wearing a gorgeous mask and saying, "This is 120 million in cash," was such a cool thing. As the author of a light novel, he definitely couldn't miss such a scene. So, the 3 siblings sat fresh-faced in the carriage. "I didn't expect you to be interested in auctions. You little one don't like ordinary things, do you?" Lulu was proud. Ordinary things are so boring. But the next second, she couldn't smile anymore. So the gift for your brother is also so special. Magic stones without magic. What's that better gift called again? No Lulu flower. The 2 brothers were instantly charmed. They both said there was no better gift than this. Only Lulu was left so embarrassed she could dig out a 3-bedroom apartment. Soon the carriage arrived at the auction house. This scene was exactly as he had imagined. However, the auction item of a human heart made Lulu instantly realize that this was actually a black market auction. The next item was a telescope that could reveal treasures. The reason the great pirate Luffy became famous was all thanks to this telescope. Lulu was instantly excited. However, the next second, the host added more details about the treasure. It was like an insurance advertisement. Lulu was immediately disappointed. Her 2 brothers thought she didn't have money, as she hadn't participated even once. They competed to spend money for her, but in fact, she was richer than both of them. Soon, it came to the last auction item. In the cage was actually a young boy. Lulu was shocked. Isn't this the boy the demon showed him before? Unexpected to meet him here. Gems are priceless because of their beauty and rarity. So what's the value of this boy? The host pressed a controller towards the boy. Instantly, a terrifying frost burst out on the scene. With just one strike, it damaged the cage that could only be split by spiritual power. But the boy didn't move at all. It showed how terrifying his power was. So the starting price for this boy was 1 billion. Everyone got excited instantly, constantly raising the price. Lulu knew that the boy's fate would be extremely miserable if bought. He might be used as a tool at others' will. The system detected that he had softened, so it kept reminding him to stay away from the boy. But Lulu thought that if she took good care of him, she could make him her own person. That way, at least he wouldn't turn evil due to an unfortunate life. But that would be too cliché. Lulu was sure the boy was on the path of an obsessive male lead. Such extraordinary ability must come with noble blood. If it were an ordinary female lead, she would care for him for a while and then let him go free. The boy would think he was abandoned. So when he grows up and regains his identity, he would force love on the female lead. Although there are many variables in the future, one thing is certain. Taking care of her would definitely lead to being entangled. So Lulu made a bold decision. That is to buy her, but not raise her. The next second, an explosive scene appeared. Lulu raised her number plate high, shouting loudly, 10 billion. The girl splurged 10 billion just to buy a little boy. It instantly stunned the entire underground auction house. Everyone was eager to know who this extravagant person was. But her two brothers beside her became jealous. You already have brothers. Why do you need to buy a slave? Lulu hurriedly explained that she just felt sorry for the boy. If he fell into someone else's hands, he would definitely be tortured. At this point, the two still looked unconvinced, until Lulu said she planned to set him free. Only then did the two brothers show satisfied smiles. So our sister bought him to set him free. She's so kind. At this moment, the host excitedly announced the auction result. The boy was won by Miss Rabbit. The next second, he unexpectedly started bleeding from 7 orifices without warning. Instantly, there were heavy casualties on the scene. It was chaos. Lulu wasn't clear about what happened. She left the scene under her brother's protection. She felt this was their first meeting, and it would also be the last. She hoped the boy could live well. When Lulu returned home, she found her father had been waiting outside for a long time. The Duke had heard about what happened at the auction house and hurried out to check if his daughter was injured. He picked up a fallen eyelash very seriously. The two brothers immediately reflected deeply, admitting they ran too fast just now. It seems next time they need to use magic to protect her. Lulu felt this wasn't the point. The point was that she insisted on going to the auction house, and it was an illegal auction house at that. The Duke didn't think there was any problem. Instead, he apologized to his daughter. Actually, you didn't need to bring these two guys to go. Lulu knew her father was afraid she'd be upset for not having magic. I feel very safe now, so I don't mind. Just then, a soldier shouted that someone was attacking. The two brothers wondered how many people the attacker brought to be so bold. But unexpectedly, the soldier stammered that it was only one child about the same age as the young miss. Lulu had a bad feeling rising in her heart. Looking closer, it was indeed the child from the auction house. The Duke immediately knew what had happened. It seems you're the one who used poison at the auction house. Everyone was surprised by his talent. They didn't expect someone could possess dual magic simultaneously. Seeing this, the Duke questioned the boy about why he came here. Who sent him? But the boy didn't say a word. He just stood there silently watching. This exhausted the Duke's already limited patience. He directly used his powerful magic against him. However, looking at the boy's eyes, Lulu inwardly cried out in alarm. This boy came here to seek death. The boy had just escaped from the illegal auction house not long ago, and now he came to the Duke's mansion to seek death. Lulu discovered his true intention. She hurriedly stopped her raging father. Obviously, the Duke wanted to make him pay for attacking the mansion. But Lulu stated that the boy wasn't bad. He clearly had the ability to kill everyone, but he didn't. So he came here intentionally to seek death. The boy's reaction showed she guessed correctly. The unpleasant experience at the auction house was enough to make him want to kill everyone. But he only acted against the slave traders. So a child like this couldn't possibly be dangerous. Seeing that her dad was still going to punish him, Lulu, in a moment of urgency, shouted that he was her slave. So the right to punish him belonged to her. The two brothers disagreed, since Lulu won the bid but didn't pay. Lulu didn't care about that. She insisted on deciding how to punish him herself, because a slave completely belongs to the master. The daughter-doting maniac naturally wouldn't refuse, so he put his daughter down. At this time, the system detected Lulu's behavior and kept issuing warnings. But Lulu directly ignored them. She thought the boy didn't know how to live on. That's why he chose to come here to die. She stood in front of the boy and said, "You have to stay here temporarily to receive punishment, but you must obey 3 conditions. First, you can't harm my family. Second, you can't harm our family members and people in the Duke City. Third, and most importantly, you can't become obsessed with me." Saying this, she ignored the boy's confused gaze and directly put her own shoes on the boy's feet. "If you violate these 3 points, I will definitely kill you." The boy looked very disgusted and asked Lulu to kill him. But Lulu didn't care at all. "Without my permission, you have no right to control your own life or death. Put this child in the dungeon." The boy took the chance to jump down. Immediately, the shoes made a squeaking sound. The farce ended with him being put in ability-restraining shackles. The two brothers were very dissatisfied with this. Lulu hurriedly warned them not to bully him privately. "I will be responsible for him and punish him. Is that okay?" The Duke immediately agreed. Anything his daughter wanted was fine. Besides, he heard that keeping pets is very good for soothing children's emotions. But it's better to add another layer of protection. Saying this, he used magic to create a protective barrier for Lulu. That night, Lulu asked the system her mind. She was wearing a mask at that time, wearing a robe. How did the boy find the Duke's mansion? Why was he said to be dangerous? And why couldn't she get involved with him? Seeing that the system didn't speak, Lulu went straight to sleep. However, the next morning, in her drowsy state, she heard someone calling Master. Lulu immediately grabbed the person, but she suddenly realized the voice was different. Opening her eyes, she saw the boy's tsundere expression. Since you're awake, let go of me. I'm here to serve you breakfast. Master, what exactly is the situation? The boy was a fierce little beast the day before, but on the second day, he turned into an obedient little attendant. This transformation was unacceptable to Lulu. What kind of magic could cause such a change? Just as she decided to keep her distance from a boy, she was attracted by his smooth golden hair. Her hand unconsciously reached out to touch it. Her mouth involuntarily exclaimed, "It's really soft." However, in the next second, she heard a familiar voice. The boy in front of her had magically turned into the Duke. That overly charming figure made Lulu feel completely uncomfortable, so much so that she was still thinking about it during the meeting. She even felt extremely ashamed. The ignored Dill couldn't help but tease the young lady. "You must be thinking about that slave, right? Don't forget that I'm your first servant." Dill spoke sincerely, but was directly ignored by Lulu. "About my slave, have you inquired?" After Earl Caldo's investigation, a very strange thing was discovered. That is, the boy's abilities are incredibly powerful, but the ether value in his body is very ordinary. Normally, the higher the ability, the higher the ether value. Therefore, what he exhibits is extremely abnormal. And besides this, how he came here, why he appeared, his identity at the auction house, and so on, are all unknown. Lulu's romance novel intuition started rolling. Perhaps his true identity is a prince of the kingdom, sold to the black market due to unspeakable reasons. This would match his noble and mysterious aura. The two looked at each other and refuted. How could someone of that status appear there? And how could a prince with such abilities be sold as a slave? Young lady, sometimes you really like to say unrealistic things. Although Lulu thought they lacked imagination, their points were so reasonable that she couldn't refute. Just then, a guard came to report, saying the slave boy from yesterday wanted to see her. In Lulu's opinion, if such a powerful child is considered dangerous, then there's only one possibility. He has an unfortunate past. The moment she saw the boy again, his battered appearance caused Lulu to worry. She wanted to show concern for the boy and let him get proper treatment. But this triggered a warning from the system. So Lulu immediately pretended to be a villainess, saying, "I am your master, so you should learn to respect me." To prevent the boy from becoming dependent, she actually acted like the villainess from novels. This angered the boy so much that he immediately flared up, throwing off the hand on his body. "So you want to play slave games? I won't cooperate with you." Lulu's hand stung, but on the surface, she maintained an extremely arrogant appearance. The boy didn't want to continue living like this, so he requested to atone for attacking the Duke's son with his life. However, how could Lulu possibly agree? She said if you want to ask for something, you should have the right attitude. Otherwise, join the game of naive nobles. You're still somewhat useful. Becoming a killing toy should be interesting. The boy, suppressing his anger, said through gritted teeth, "Please just kill me, master." The last two words clearly took all of his strength. Seeing that she had successfully angered him, Lulu thought this would surely help her avoid the fate of an obsessive male lead. So she quickly made an excuse to leave. Suddenly, she turned her head and asked for the boy's name. But the boy said he didn't have such a thing. This made her heart ache involuntarily. She didn't expect him to be just like her former self. Suddenly, a discordant voice rang out. The guard who witnessed everything excitedly banged on the wall. "I never thought I'd live to see the young lady look so cool." Before Lulu could recover from this bizarre situation, a bad premonition approached her again. Sure enough, Dill, with eyes sparkling, volunteered, "I want to call you master too." But he was flatly rejected by Lulu, who even called it disgusting. Unable to bear the blow, he ran away crying. At this time, Earl Caldo unconsciously sighed, lamenting how hard Lulu's life must be. This made Lulu feel like she had found a kindred spirit. But unexpectedly, Caldo suddenly leaned close to her ear, saying, "Haven't you been sending me messages lately?" Lulu was completely speechless. Why was it so hard to find a normal friend? That day, the maids learned about Viscount Dill's deeds. Lulu described what happened with disdain, but the maids defended Viscount Dill, saying he was handsome and talented. He was many people's dream lover. After listening, Lulu seriously explained that Uncle Dill was too frivolous. She said she'd only feel something if a celibate or seductive man called her master, and they should only flatter me, not smile at others. Everyone thought it made sense, but they noticed something strange. How could the young lady know about such things at such a young age? Lulu didn't know how to explain for a moment. After all, she was just a 5-year-old kid now, so she could only blame it on Clara. Oh my, our young lady is so innocent. She's been corrupted. You're too young to know about this. Forget it quickly. Speaking of Clara, Lulu suddenly felt strange. Normally, when a new character appears, a new task would be issued. But the system only encouraged her to kill the person. Could the boy be the rumored male lead? So to completely avoid the path of an obsessive male lead and turn him into a soft and cute little machi, Lulu made a bold decision. To save the male lead but not get entangled, she used her ability to transform into an old granny. This action came at a huge cost. Not only did she use 5,000 gold coins to put the ability to catch crystal bombs into storage, but she also spent money to draw a new ability, Please Forget Me. It was a perfect transformation using magical items. Avoiding the male lead's gaze, the ability could only last for 1 hour. Lulu thought that an old granny with a warm embrace would surely create beautiful memories for the boy. She had also experimented on the way here. The effect was obviously excellent, but unexpectedly, the boy reacted strongly the moment he saw her. He even asked what she was doing, as if he could see her true appearance. However, Lulu didn't think there was any problem and continued to communicate in the old granny's tone. "You brat, is that how you talk to Granny?" Saying this, she began putting things on the ground, arranging them. "I'm here to clean up for you. Or do you want to wipe it yourself?" The boy was very angry. He directly threw her hand away, but he paused after seeing the girl's expression. Lulu was secretly surprised by his reaction. As expected of a romance novel, it made this fierce little cat develop a sense of respect for elders. But with only 1 hour at a time, she couldn't delay any longer. So Lulu forced the boy to be helpless and started wiping him down. "If you want to do it yourself, you need to behave well. That's good for both of us, isn't it?" After a simple cleanup, the boy's original face clearly appeared. Lulu couldn't help but marvel. It was truly breathtakingly beautiful. Losing such beauty would be a loss for humanity. She hoped he would definitely meet a good person in the future and have 12 children. Who knows if Lulu would regret having such thoughts later. After being released from paralysis, the boy tried to drive her out again. Seeing this, Lulu stuffed the prepared bread into his mouth. The sword was immediately thrown away. Lulu had an as expected look on her face. She took out another one and put it in his hand. "If you don't want to eat now, keep it for later. Eating well helps your body recover. If your body feels unwell, you'll have many bad thoughts. So eat well and get better quickly." Before leaving, she threatened the boy, "If you don't eat, Granny will paralyze you next time and force feed you." After doing all this, Lulu changed back to her original form. But on her way back, she encountered her father. With just one glance, her father saw the wound on her arm. Only then did Lulu realize she had been scratched by the boy earlier. If she told the truth, her father would definitely rush over and kill him. So she could only lie and say it was accidentally cut by grass. The next moment, the Duke took Lulu to the place where she was injured. He simply announced a death sentence to the gardeners. Just as Lulu breathed a sigh of relief, the Duke spoke again. "This is not enough. Burn all the grass within my daughter's reach." To protect the boy, she lied that the wound on her hand was cut by grass. Unexpectedly, her crazy father angrily wanted to burn all the grass. Although Lulu had long experienced her father's outrageous behavior, she was still too shocked to speak. So she could only use her unique skill again. Lulu pitifully stated that these little grasses were all her friends. This barely stopped the Duke's actions. Afterwards, Lulu lived a very fulfilling life. Not only did her career progress smoothly, but she also spent harmonious times with her family. Even her relationship with the boy improved. The feisty little cat finally showed some response. Although they still kept their distance. "You still don't want to tell Granny your name? I can't keep calling you brat." The boy looked indifferent. So Lulu deliberately said she would call him Little Flower Dog. Unexpectedly, the boy replied contemptuously, "That name suits a slave well." Lulu hurriedly explained that names are very important. Let's give you a name later. But I heard this young lady's attitude towards you is very bad. Is that true? Lulu stammered as she asked, just wanting to know the boy's opinion of her. Unexpectedly, the boy put on a pitiful look. She said she wanted to turn me into a killing doll. She also said my face is pretty and could be used as a plaything. Lulu quickly explained, she's young and doesn't know better, that's why she said such things. It's best to forget about it quickly. Is that so? But she threatened me so confidently. It didn't seem like a child at all. Lulu was already trembling with fear. That demon is you. After leaving here, you want to take revenge on her, right? The boy didn't answer and fell asleep in a second. This made Lulu even more uneasy. Stopping mid-sentence, what exactly did he want? But based on their recent interactions, Lulu felt he wasn't a bad child. Why did the demons say he was dangerous? To brainwash the boy, she quietly approached his ear. She said, you can't become a big bad guy in the future, and you definitely can't kill me. You should meet a nice girl and have 12 children with her. That's the most direct way for you to contribute to humanity. After repeating it many times, Lulu finally left satisfied. The boy, who woke up much later, was surprised by his own changes. He didn't expect to fall asleep so often after coming here. All the changes stemmed from that girl, called Lulu. Actually, having someone who could understand him made him very happy. But her sudden mischievous reaction later made him fall into despair again. At that time, she said he didn't even have the freedom to choose death. How was that any different from those people at the auction house? But unexpectedly, after just a few days, the girl appeared with a completely different face. And she had the eyes of the heart that could see through the truth. So from a day, Lulu transformed into an old granny. He could always see the girl's true appearance in her eyes. Although the interaction process was somewhat humiliating, in those blue eyes, there seemed to be a vast sky he had never touched before. The unknown felt both terrifying and cruel. It even made him have thoughts he never had before. The boy was under an unprecedented vicious curse. As soon as he gained a bit of health and peace, the restriction would be triggered, making him suffer terribly. A week had passed since their last meeting. Lulu congratulated her brother on Count Card becoming the head of the Senate. Although it was expected, it was still worth being happy about. However, in the next second, two jealous guys popped up. How can this guy be Cotton Candy's brother? Isn't Lulu my sister? The boy hurriedly explained, the young lady doesn't know my name yet, that's why she calls me that. Lulu also quickly smoothed things over. I actually came today because of this matter. In fact, Card had given his son a name on the day they met. But obviously, the boy wanted to tell Lulu his name himself. My name is Arthur. The boy's voice trembled slightly. You could feel the excitement in his heart. This name was chosen by his mother and father back then. Lulu warmly praised that it was a good name. They must have decided on it while eagerly anticipating your arrival and pondering deeply. Such warm words touched Arthur deeply. Even the two dark gazes beside him could be ignored. But what Lulu was thinking was, I should decide on that child's name soon. Recently, because her transformation times were almost used up, she reduced her visits. But she always sent food and letters. Their relationship should be considered close now, right? At this time, Arthur hesitantly spoke up, expressing his desire to join the support team. Lulu agreed without any hesitation. Not only because he was Daphne's son and had the ability to control water, more importantly, his name and hair color fit perfectly with her team. It was just too great. Just then, an attendant approached. Reporting à soudain accident. Young lady, your slave has fainted. He seems to be in life-threatening danger now. Upon hearing this, Lulu immediately ran off without caring about anything else. He seemed so healthy just a week ago. How did this suddenly happen? Her mind was in chaos. If it weren't for her brothers, she would have rolled down the stairs. Her brothers held her hands on both sides, giving her great comfort. But when she actually saw the boy, she was still shocked by the scene before her. Several magicians surrounded him, suppressing him, but the restraining effect was very weak, and the content of the restriction was very vicious. It was health and peace. Whether physically or mentally, any change for the better would cause him to suffer immense pain. As they were talking, the boy suddenly coughed up blood. That look in his eyes seemed to explain everything. They were back to square one, or even worse. Lulu's heart ached painfully. The magicians all expressed that they had never seen such a restriction before. Even if they spent a long time, they might not be able to research a solution. The hope was very slim. Hearing this, Lulu's heart sank. She showed a terrifying authority never seen before. So it can't be removed? The 4-year-old girl's gaze made the magicians extremely afraid. They immediately apologized for their incompetence. However, they thought it was fortunate that, even if the boy violated the restriction, he wouldn't die. He would just suffer because of it. Lulu didn't agree with this explanation. After all, the boy would endure great torment every moment he lived. But this isn't the magician's fault. I'm sorry for being too emotional and harsh. Please continue your investigation. After saying this, she turned and left. She secretly decided in her heart, no matter what, she would help the boy remove the restriction. After this, the boy was temporarily moved to an empty room for treatment. Meanwhile, Lulu desperately searched for answers in the literature. But a restriction that combined medicine, magic, curses, and even sacred power into one, no one could remove it, no matter who came. Indeed, after the magicians had an in-depth discussion, they came to the same conclusion. This made Lulu's expression suddenly freeze. Aren't the endings of fantasy novels always perfect? Why does he have to live such a painful life? How is that child's condition? His endurance is beyond imagination. Although that kind of pain isn't something one can just endure by will. If it were others, they would have been given a large amount of painkillers by now. Lulu suddenly thought of something. Perhaps he has a force inside his body that can resist the restriction's pressure, like ether. The magicians suddenly became agitated. This was indeed an aspect they hadn't considered. After all, that child has 2 special abilities. He should have a high ether value. So there's a possibility that the ether is counteracting the restriction. Therefore, to treat it, we need to generate even stronger ether. But usually this is set at birth. Just then, the system suddenly issued a warning. If she continues to be involved, she won't be able to sever ties with this character. Dear reader, you are now standing at a fork in the road of fate. This might become a choice that completely shakes the predetermined future. Lulu remembered the demon once said he was the only one who could touch the boundaries of the law of cause and effect. Does this mean he can change destiny? Suddenly, a prompt sounded. You have met the hidden conditions. Obtain special item. Pioneer's will. Various realms have noticed your existence. Lulu's eyes were immediately drawn to the detailed description. As a pioneer, she would never lose to a game of random probability numbers. This meant she could accurately choose whatever ability she wanted. So without hesitation, she drank the lucky potion. Then she used the remaining lottery tickets. She summoned the novel's treasure, Mississippi. Among thousands of ancient puzzles, she chose the ability she wanted. That was the ability to create miracles just by singing, generating a large amount of ether. Lulu's gaze gradually became determined. She hoped her assumption about the boy's restriction was correct. You must wait for me. Born humble, yet possessing the talent of an emperor. Thus, he was offered to the emperor by his birth mother in exchange for wealth. But at the moment he saw his mother's head fall, the young boy couldn't control his tears and cried uncontrollably. From then on, these unfortunate memories kept replaying over and over, more cruel than reality. Trapped in an eternal nightmare, he just wanted to die like this. But this time when the restriction activated, an unprecedented scene appeared. On the vast beach, that strange girl appeared. Yes, she was in existence even more terrifying than nightmares. The next moment, the girl's song rang out. Although it was hard to listen to, his heart became calmer than ever before. The dormant desire surged in his heart again. Kill me. If so, I want to die by your hands. Suddenly, a tear rolled down his face. You don't need to die. Live on well. Although these words couldn't save him from his terminal condition, for some reason, they inexplicably comforted his heart. The next day, Lulu again came to the boy's room through the secret passage. Although she verbally promised her father not to contact the boy, she still couldn't ignore him. Fortunately, the boy looked much better today. His physical condition had improved. His mental state couldn't be ignored either. Saying this, she again used her ability to transform into an old grandmother. She gently woke up the sleeping boy. The boy immediately showed a shocked expression. He shouted for her to stay away. Lulu immediately understood the boy's concern. She warmly comforted him. It's all right. It's not contagious. After helping the boy sit up, she took out the nutritious porridge she had prepared in advance. But the boy became emotionally agitated because of this. He curled up into a ball. His fragile appearance evoked sympathy. His beautiful appearance further captivated Lulu. Coming to her senses, Lulu quickly slapped herself twice, reminding herself that she was now a grandmother taking care of her grandson. The boy, who had already seen through Lulu's true form, was very puzzled as to why she wanted to help him so much. Lulu hit herself. She continued to say that when Grandma sees a skinny child, she just wants to feed him. You don't need to repay me. Just live on well. The boy sensed the detachment in Lulu's words. It was obvious she wanted to get rid of him. Suddenly, the punishment restriction struck again. Red lines continuously spread throughout his body. Seeing Lulu's expression full of concern, the boy suddenly felt a bit helpless. Originally, whether he was upset or not didn't matter to him. But now he really wanted to tell her not to cry, not to shed tears. The next second, a melodious voice filled with complex emotions sounded again. Her singing was terrible. It saved the boy's life because of this. The moment the voice rang out, the boy suddenly felt relaxed in body and mind, as if he was standing on vast territory. It was also at this moment that he understood the girl's heart. Lulu used to be like him before. Even talking about the future was a luxury. She just wanted to be free quickly and rest well. But when she really didn't have to worry about surviving anymore, she understood what she liked and disliked, and realized how wrong it was to think that death meant liberation. Lulu unhesitatingly grasped the boy's hand, telling him to be full of confidence in the future. By then, there would surely be things he wanted to do and people he wanted to protect. From this moment on, the boy's condition visibly improved. Lulu was also relieved because of this. Just one more use of his singing ability would completely cure him. The magicians were shocked by this. Why was there such a strong ether reaction in this room? Lulu immediately broke out in a cold sweat. She could only make up a story about using spiritual power to open acupoints. That's how ether was used to produce this result. Everyone seemed to have a sudden realization. They started praising Lulu, as expected of the bloodline of Peridon. However, the Duke had a serious expression. He called Lulu out of the room. Lulu, don't you have something to tell me? Sure enough, Dad knew everything. I'm sorry. I promised you I wouldn't go to that room, but I didn't keep my promise. It was clear that Dad was very angry today. It wasn't something that could be easily appeased. At this moment, he noticed the assistant's strange behavior nearby. His mouth opened and closed like a goldfish. After a second of confusion, he suddenly understood. She quickly kissed her father on the cheek. I am sorry, Dad. Please forgive me, okay? How could the Duke bear to punish such an adorable daughter? So he also kissed Lulu on the cheek. Now, it was the turn of the two sister-obsessed brothers to be jealous. He gave each of them a kiss too. Only then did they settle down. Since that boy is your slave, you need to know about this matter as well. As it turned out, the Duke had investigated the restrictions on the boy's body. He discovered that the boy was of royal bloodline, and the malicious restrictions were also related to the royal family. Unexpectedly, it was exactly the same as Lulu's previous speculation. But the demon said that child was a dangerous person, and the royal family had tortured him to a fate worse than death. It seemed there was no hope to be seen in him. This made Lulu think about what name to give the boy. But due to the side effects of her ability, she coughed up blood again. She fainted in front of the boy like this. He had wanted to have a cool farewell. Unexpectedly, she suddenly coughed up blood and fainted. Just now, Lulu had finally thought of a name for the boy. So she came here again, muttering to herself that seeds have infinite possibilities. I also like those plots where villains become great beings. The boy was puzzled by these inexplicable words. But Lulu continued, what kind of person you become is up to you. Don't let others control your life anymore. Then she took out a beautiful rose. Along with the key and controller for the restraints, she handed them all over. Your name will be Sid. I hope you can live freely from now on. The boy still looked confused, but the next second, the girl violently coughed up a pool of blood. She smiled weakly like this and fell straight down. The boy experienced these complex emotions for the first time, whether it was having restrictions carved into his soul, or being drugged and sold as a slave, or even when receiving his birth mother's severed head. He had never felt like this before. He couldn't accept the scene before him. He felt this must be a nightmare caused by the restrictions. But even so, he couldn't allow any possibility of Lulu getting hurt. He carried the girl and rushed out of the room to find a doctor, but was stopped at the door by Salowin and Ares. That restraint was injected with power. The demonic energy should be paralyzing all your nerves now. How are you enduring it? My sister barely saved your life. You can't die now. Saying this, they pushed him back into the room. The words they just said kept echoing in Sid's ears. Looking at the pool of blood on the bed, he couldn't come to his senses for a long time. So that girl had coughed up blood and fainted in order to help him remove the restrictions. What a bad person. She arbitrarily became his master, arbitrarily saved him, and now arbitrarily abandoned him. Suddenly, his eyes became determined. If that's the case, I will live on, as he said, no longer living according to others' ideas, including yours. After a long time, Lulu finally woke up, but she found that the boy had disappeared without a trace, as if he had never appeared at all. Although she knew this day would come, she didn't expect to not even be able to say goodbye. It ended so abruptly. The two people beside her could feel her overwhelming disappointment. But Lulu suddenly slapped the table and stood up. That's not the point now. I heard that person will arrive at the Duke's mansion within a week. That person who will become the stepmother of a 5-year-old girl, about to have a second mother. She's a relative of the Empress. She has a daughter. Normally, she couldn't become the Duke's wife. But the Duke once said that unmarried women would make him feel pressured in order to refuse the royal family. So the royal family adapted. They chose the divorced Mrs. Apelia. Although on the surface, it's to discuss merits and obtaining land. In reality, it's a definite matchmaking and political marriage. Lulu knew her father was still young and would marry sooner or later. But he should choose for himself, not accept the royal family's arrangement. But it seemed like she was the only one in the entire mansion who was so excited. Even her brothers looked indifferent. Could it be that Mrs. Apelia is actually a very good person? Maybe she could completely become a part of Peradon. Soon, the time came. A week later, Mrs. Apelia arrived with her daughter as promised. Lulu approached first to investigate, seeing that the woman didn't show any displeasure at being greeted by servants. She couldn't make a judgment yet. It seemed she needed to continue observing. The next morning, they would have lunch with Mrs. Apelia. But because she wasn't notified early, Lulu was now round and plump. So, to aid digestion, she was walking frantically in the garden. At this time, she noticed a little girl nearby. She curiously approached to ask what she was doing. Seeing the girl crouching with a pale face, she suspected she wasn't feeling well. After all, the mansion was surrounded by magical aura. It was very unfriendly to children with weak resistance. But unexpectedly, a sudden growling sound was heard. It turned out the girl was just hungry. The enthusiastic Lulu immediately grabbed her, inviting her to raid the kitchen. They were preparing for lunch there. There must be many delicious things. So when lunchtime came, Lulu's belly was about to burst. She couldn't eat anything at all. There's a type of hunger called Dad thinks you're hungry. The Duke used a fist-sized diamond as bait to make him eat meat, then used a golden brooch to make him eat vegetables. Apelia praised them from the side, saying their relationship was so good. This directly opened the Duke's floodgates of speech. This child loves me so much. Says I'm the best. Feels sorry for me and applies medicine. Always wants me to hug and kiss her cheeks. Apelia at this time was like a praise robot. She could only express amazement and agreement absent-mindedly. This made Lulu very confused. Was the woman in front of her an ally, or a well-disguised royal spy? The lunch ended without any gains. It was also at this time that Mrs. Apelia's daughter, Cynthia, made her appearance. The two greeted each other friendly. Cynthia suddenly exclaimed happily, "Our age difference is just right." These words made Lulu, whose imagination was like a black hole, freeze on the spot. Could it be that her goal wasn't Dad, but to marry me? She had an extraordinary imagination, thinking the girl had come for herself. But unexpectedly, the real goal was everything she possessed. The first thing was the Duke's attention. "Your Grace, please give me a protective barrier." Normally, a child this big wouldn't be harmed by magical aura in a short time. But seeing the girl refusing to leave, the Duke didn't say anything more. He casually added a layer of protection for her. So Cynthia excitedly hugged Lulu and rushed out of the room like that, to create an opportunity for her mother. Soon the two arrived at Lulu's room. Cynthia was immediately captivated by the expensive toys in the room. She even set her eyes on the jewels on Lulu's head. "You're not old enough to wear these things yet, are you? It would suit me better." Lulu saw through her little thoughts and retorted, "Only Lulu, who is cute enough to conquer the world, suits you. I'm not as cute, am I?" Cynthia immediately became angry and embarrassed, but she still found an excuse, saying the style was too childish and indeed suited Lulu better. Saying this, she started rummaging through the room on her own. "I heard that children who touch other people's things without permission are bad kids. So what? We'll soon become family anyway. Lulu immediately understood. She could find out the truth from the girl. So with a few words, she got it out of her. It turned out they were the Queen's people, using the territory as an excuse to approach the Duke. Cynthia was completely immersed in the joy of gaining a Duke as a father. She believed that the Duke's protective barrier was his tacit approval for her to stay here. So she said very arrogantly, "You should call my mom too, and call me Big Sister. But there's never been a duchess in the Duke's mansion, so it's normal that you don't know anything. Are you mocking me for not having a mother and lacking family education?" Cynthia's face suddenly changed. She retorted sarcastically, "Overreacting to others' concern will make people think you're feeling guilty." This was too much to bear. At this moment, a system task arrived. It required uncovering the true purpose and thoughts of the two. The reward was 3,000 gold coin lottery tickets. Lulu was confidently preparing to respond, when suddenly her two brothers pushed open the door. They were competing to play with her. Cynthia immediately got excited. These two handsome guys were also her second brother and younger brother. She started chatting familiarly. "I suddenly remembered Dad's birthday is coming up soon." Lulu looked completely confused. Cynthia asked back, "I'm talking about His Grace the Duke. Don't tell me you don't even know your own father's birthday?" Lulu indeed didn't know about this, while the two brothers said, "Father doesn't like noisy parties." So everyone knew when Dad's birthday was, except for herself. Lulu fell into deep self-blame. Cynthia suddenly accused Lulu of dirtying her clothes. Saying this, she pushed her into the room, and her words were still annoying. "Is it necessary to buy such good clothes for a child? And you don't even know how to cherish them. Indeed, a duchess is needed for children to grow up proper and tidy. You don't even know His Grace's birthday. But he'll soon become my dad, and I'll help him celebrate his birthday properly." Lulu's face grew increasingly dark, and she even felt dizzy. But Cynthia didn't notice at all. After carelessly stuffing the clothes to Lulu, she ran outside to get friendly with Salwyn and Aries. It was time to make a satisfying move. The suddenly appearing girl tried to steal everything. She kept trying to get close to the two brothers of the Duke's mansion. But the moment Lulu came out after changing clothes, the two brothers' eyes immediately focused on her. "My sister looks good in anything she wears. Come here, let me brush your hair." Cynthia tried to get attention again by mentioning the Duke's birthday gift, and sarcastically asked Lulu again. It was time to start the exciting story plot, but unexpectedly, Salwyn beat her to it. He gave a brief but sharp glare. One brother was direct, the other sarcastic. It scared the girl so much she fled in panic. Lulu, who was interrupted, glared at Salwyn unhappily. This made Aries mistakenly think Lulu liked that girl. So he asked sadly, "Do you like me or do you like him? I feel like you care more about him. It makes me a bit sad." Lulu firmly declared that her brother was the best in the world. Only then was the second brother slightly comforted. "But what birthday gift have you prepared for Dad? Why prepare that kind of thing? He can buy whatever he wants himself. But gifts contain the giver's feelings. So what? You can't eat feelings." The brothers' constant rebuttals made Lulu angry. "All right, I get it. When it's Salwyn and Aries' birthdays, I won't need to give gifts either." This time, the two brothers were completely shocked. Screams of anguish echoed throughout the mansion. That night, Lulu fell into a daze. She even felt upset for not knowing her dad's birthday. She unexpectedly lost her temper at the maid. Just then, the Duke suddenly appeared. "They said you were in a bad mood, so I came to check. You look like a little dog caught in the rain." Lulu's face was full of dejection and self-blame. "I didn't know your birthday, so I couldn't prepare a gift in advance." The Duke saw his daughter's guilt. He hugged the small person tightly, telling her she didn't need to prepare anything. Just accepting his love was enough. Seeing Lulu insist on giving a gift, he no longer objected. "Whatever you give, I'll like it." However, the next day, Mrs. Apelia actually wanted to stop this birthday party. Because this was the Duke's first birthday since returning from the battlefield, it wouldn't be appropriate to not celebrate like before. Everyone was speechless, because organizing the mansion's banquet was the mistress's responsibility. The Duke also made his stance clear at this time. "Are you looking down on Paradon? How could I possibly entrust a banquet held after 4 years to an unrelated outsider?" The woman nervously explained that she didn't mean anything else, just got a bit anxious. Just then, the girl's clear voice rang out. "Then we definitely can't let Annie handle it. How can we entrust Paradon's banquet to someone who gets anxious and meddles without understanding the situation?" Am I right? The ill-intentioned woman, Auntie, actually dared to dream of becoming the mistress of the Duke's mansion, volunteering to take charge of the grand banquet held once in a few years. Lulu saw through her intentions at a glance. She pointed it out directly, without mercy. If you appear as the host on my dad's birthday, what will people think? And this isn't a village. How can the banquet be simple? At this point, the Duke said, hosting a party like the New Year's banquet would be quite nice. So, my good daughter, would you like to try taking charge of the preparations? Apelia, who didn't get her way, put on airs again. She managed her expression while suppressing her anger. She said she wanted to guide Lulu on how to host a good banquet. After all, it's your first time doing this. But I have a lot of successful experience. Lulu politely declined on the spot. Auntie, have you ever hosted a palace party? If not, then it's hard to say. After all, we're not on the same level as other families. The woman could no longer keep her composure. But Lulu didn't intend to let it go at that. Our family's head butler is very capable, so let's leave the preparations to him. This moved Chadwick deeply. He vowed to serve the young lady to the death. After resolving the matters here, Lulu immediately turned to leave. Now it's time to clean house. The guests seem to be staying longer than expected. It looks like it's time for a big cleaning to properly entertain the guests. Alka understood and decided to call everyone for a grand cleaning. So the two visiting mother and daughter were notified to move to the courtyard to enjoy the scenery. This would probably last for about 2 hours. Obviously, this action angered them. It also brought a sense of crisis. Because the discussion about the fief had ended, there was no excuse to continue staying here. If this continued, they would leave empty-handed. The angry Cynthia immediately had an idea. She decided to target the two young Duke's sons. She had long hoped to become a maid in Peridon's palace. She had even already assumed that identity. She took Lulu's jeweled hairpin. She happily thought about the handsome two brothers. It was as if she had already become their favorite. The next second, she bumped into something. Looking down, she saw what had fallen on the ground. Lulu, what's going on? Why did my things fall out from your body? Cynthia panicked, not knowing how to explain. Just then, she heard Dana's voice from nearby, so she immediately pushed the blame onto her. Even if you want it so badly, you shouldn't steal. Lulu, please forgive her. If she's caught, she'll be severely punished. So I was about to return it for her. Lulu naturally knew that Cynthia was framing someone else, because she already knew the hairpin had been stolen earlier. That's why she set up this trap. She couldn't let Cynthia get away with it. So she said very seriously, Dana, is what she's saying true? She set a trap to lure out the annoying thief. She wanted to use this to drive the person away, but she didn't expect the other party to drag in a scapegoat. Seeing Cynthia's smug expression, Lulu was so angry her teeth itched. It was as if she was a saint and Lulu was the bad person trying to frame her. If that's really the case, Dana should be able to answer my question. What does the hairpin you stole look like? Dana had never seen the item, so how could she describe it? She hesitated and guessed it had a bow. Cynthia immediately anxiously added, what you meant to say is, there's no bow on it, right? You need to speak clearly. Seeing this, Lulu scolded harshly. If you say one more word, I'll reasonably assume you're trying to manipulate the situation to create false evidence. Cynthia wanted to say something to salvage the situation, but the two brothers had already issued their final warning. If you've forgotten the style, you should at least know the basic color, right? Dana still couldn't say anything, but fearing abuse, she immediately took the blame. Her trembling appearance reminded Lulu of her former self. It's okay, you can get up. The girl didn't have time to react. Blood started flowing from her nose. She collapsed to the ground. Clearly, this was caused by the demonic energy of the Peridon family. Logically, the Duke wouldn't refuse to apply a protective barrier, so the only explanation was that Cynthia did it intentionally. Quickly take Dana to the infirmary, then call Dad over. Cynthia, fearing her malicious actions would be exposed, tried to stop them, but she was stopped by Lulu's sharp glare. Just then, a new task appeared. It was to save the poor little girl. Soon, Dana received treatment. After applying the protective barrier, the Duke felt a sense of fear, afraid that the person lying there could have been his precious daughter. Although he applied a protective barrier for Lulu every day, he would still silently watch over her while she slept to ensure her safety. After dealing with it, Lulu walked out of the room. She found her two brothers staying far away from her, obviously afraid that the demonic energy on their bodies would have a negative effect on their sister. But Lulu ran straight to them and hugged them. Look, aren't I very healthy? The two finally smiled with relief. We hoped you could have friends of the same gender, so we've been suppressing our demonic energy and didn't do anything. We didn't expect this to happen. Making our sister sad is another matter entirely. Should I kill her? Only then did Lulu realize this was the reason they tolerated Cynthia. She's my prey. None of you can touch her. I want to open this soda bottle myself. Although they didn't understand what the last sentence meant, it didn't stop them from thinking their sister was very cool. Lulu's first step was to investigate the enemy. She quietly came to the mother and daughter's room through a secret passage. She listened to all their secret conversations. Children born with defects are always favored, so the person you need to please is the little maid. And I have my own ways. After all, men are born foolish creatures. They are destined to be unable to escape from women. So she wanted to use the so-called beauty strategy. The woman attempted to sneak into the Duke's room to use her charms. This was overheard by the Duke's daughter hiding in the shadows. Shocked and suspicious, she wondered if this was an all-ages fantasy novel. She absolutely wouldn't allow this to happen. Just then, Dana pushed open the door and came in. It was clear that she had recovered well. But Cynthia, in order to stay here longer, made her pretend to look uncomfortable and in pain. It's all Luadish's fault. With so many accessories, why make a fuss over just one? Apelia chimed in. I don't like daughters who are too greedy. It seems you've spoiled her too much. I'll educate her well in the future. The two laughed with cunning expressions, as if they could already see the beautiful future of becoming the masters of this mansion. They fearlessly discussed the upcoming birthday party. Unexpectedly, even the gifts involved the Empress's participation. In order to hear more clearly, Lulu inched forward bit by bit, but accidentally bumped into a book, making a noise. It instantly drew the attention of the two. The air suddenly went quiet. Lulu was scared out of her wits, afraid of being caught on the spot. She turned her head and met Dana's eyes. Just when she thought it was all over, Dana said it was the sound of a book falling. Relieved, Lulu also noticed the fear in the girl's eyes. Despite being so afraid, she still bravely covered for her. At that moment, Lulu made up her mind. She would do her best to help Dana in the future. Just then, the wet nurse came in with a tray of lemon slices. Cynthia very naturally rushed forward. The two were as close as a real mother and daughter. Then she angrily turned to glare at Dana. She scolded, "What are you looking at? Your biggest problem is that you covet things that don't belong to you without knowing your place. Do you know how much I suffered when the wet nurse was carrying you? I'll lend the wet nurse to you. The wet nurse should belong to me alone." Then, she made an outrageous statement. Only I would forgive your mistakes. Anyone else definitely wouldn't let you off, you know. Lulu's pupils shook. She couldn't understand how Cynthia could say such things. So she secretly vowed to make sure Dana would find happiness. A few days later, the birthday party was held as scheduled. Looking at the perfect party prepared in just 5 days, Apelia unconsciously felt a bit flustered. In contrast, Cynthia was already impatient. She believed she would definitely be the most dazzling presence today. After all, the dress she wore was a gift from the Empress. However, the next moment, the sound of several people entering was heard. The mother and daughter were completely stunned. Who could have imagined that Lulu's flower crown would outshine the rare phantom beast egg? The highly anticipated party began. Lulu was held tightly in the Duke's arms. This made Cynthia almost go mad with jealousy. The next moment, the aloof Duke proudly showed off his daughter. The vassals also nodded and agreed excitedly. The mother and daughter almost couldn't suppress their bitterness. Mrs. Apelia immediately adjusted her emotions, because the gift-giving session was about to begin. They would surely be able to steal the spotlight then. Soon, various precious and exquisite gifts were presented. There were mermaid tear pearls symbolizing God's blessing, and an ancient treasure, the double flower cloak. The high quality was unexpected for the two of them. Finally, it was Apelia's turn. At this moment, Lulu left the venue. This made Cynthia think she was too ashamed to stay. So she smiled smugly and wished the Duke a happy birthday. But the Duke just nodded coldly, without giving any extra reaction. To celebrate your Grace's birthday, we mother and daughter have prepared a small gift. As the cloth was slowly lifted, everyone present was amazed, because it was the legendary phantom beast egg. If one's luck wasn't good enough, it would be hard to obtain even with great ability. Mrs. Apelia showed a satisfied smile, because she thought the Duke's attention was also attracted by this gift. But when she looked carefully, she found that the Duke's gaze had fallen elsewhere. And as she looked in that direction, she saw something black and fuzzy moving behind the screen. The next second, the little one sweetly called out, "Papa!" while rushing forward at top speed. As the cloak fell, Lulu, dressed as a bouquet, appeared before everyone. The father and two sons were instantly enchanted. They called for painters, sculptors, and mural artists to come, determined to record Lulu's adorable appearance, no matter how much it cost. Lulu wanted to ask if her father liked her gift, but the next second she was scooped up and cuddled tightly. Then the Duke ordered the servants to clean up the gifts, without giving them a single extra glance. Just then, the famous designer Yutra appeared. Although he hadn't received an invitation to the party, he still brought a congratulatory gift. The Duke initially looked indifferent, but when he heard the gift was matching outfits for him and Lulu, his eyes instantly lit up. The two brothers were also incredibly envious. The designer had to say that due to time constraints, he hadn't finished yet, but would send them over as soon as they were done. Cynthia was completely stunned, because Yutra had publicly stated he would no longer make clothes for girls. But unexpectedly, he was making them specially for Lulu alone. After the party ended, both of them wore faces of defeat and anger. But Apelia clearly wasn't going to give up so easily. A malicious plan surfaced once again. The little maid used a small trick to catch the woman who wanted to sneak into bed red-handed. On the evening after the party ended, Cynthia ran into the designer Yutra alone. The Baroness immediately excitedly went up to chat. As a super fan, she had seen every album ever published. Even her dream was to attend social gatherings wearing gowns he designed. When she learned that a new album was about to be released, she was so excited she couldn't speak. However, the next second she was stunned, because Yutra's clothes this time were all for 4 to 5-year-old girls. So Cynthia couldn't wear them at all. Just then, one of Lulu's support team members appeared with images. It instantly caused a commotion. It turned out to be a recording of Lulu opening gifts after the party ended. Although the items were given to the Duke, people with insight would look for things suitable for Lulu. Therefore, in the eyes of the two brothers, the mermaid's tears scored 0 points. Although beautiful, it couldn't be worn. And since they wouldn't go to the seaside for now, it would just be a decoration in the room. Hearing the words seaside, Lulu's eyes immediately lit up. Papa, do you need that thing? Not really. If you want it, act cute, and I might consider giving it to you. After getting 2 kisses as she wished, Lulu received the mermaid's tears and the rare phantom beast egg. No one knew if it could hatch, or what would hatch from it, so take good care of it. Everyone was touched after watching this. They all wanted to transform into items worn by Lulu. This scene shocked and angered Cynthia. The hard-to-obtain phantom beast egg was easily given to this girl. However, what broke her even more was that the muse of inspiration mentioned by her idol Yutra was also Lulu. This extremely distorted her entire being. Meanwhile, Apelia, dressed scantily, came to the Duke's room. There were no guards here, which suited her perfectly. She took off her cloak without saying a word. Then, in an extremely seductive manner, she said, "Your Grace, don't you find a long night lonely and sleepless? Let me comfort your solitude." Suddenly, Lulu on the bed shouted, "There's a thief!" Instantly, the lights came on and everyone rushed into the room. The scene became extremely awkward. "Papa, why is this Annie here? And she's only wrapped in a piece of cloth." This question made the Duke very embarrassed. Even the maids hurriedly covered Lulu's eyes. But unexpectedly, she said with sudden realization, "I know why Annie sneaked into bed under the cover of night.